Chapter 21. That's good, haha. I believe in the capabilities of your Moon Leader law firm, but I don't recall ever saying the sun was wiretapping me, did I? I only said I wanted to check my phone. That doesn't count as defamation, does it? Anthony nodded. Mr. William, our Moon Leader law firm has the strength and skill to win this lawsuit for you. I guarantee it won't cause you any trouble. Haha, hey, John Trison, you heard that, right? I welcome you to sue me now. Maybe you'll win, and you might even get a few £1,000,000. Wow, buddy, you're going to be rich. The reporters around them glanced between William and John Trison and then burst into laughter. Most journalists know enough about the law to see through vague insinuations. Nothing John could hang his hat on. Only someone foolish enough to take the bait would blurt the words that mattered. Tomorrow's papers were going to be delicious. No newsroom in London would pass up the chance to take a swipe at the sun. No one was sure whether John Trison would still have a job in the morning. The paper's editor might well fire him as soon as he returned. A group of onlookers watched John with thinly veiled schadenfreude, their eyes saying plainly, "Idiot, you're finished." William Devonshire, you still haven't answered my question. Please answer it. Don't change the subject, John insisted. As far as I know, you have no right of inheritance. You'll have to ask the English Peerage Council about that, William said, as if John were being dense. Seeing the reporter's expressions, they'd dig if he left things ambiguous, he decided to speak. Better to clarify live than let tomorrow's headlines twist his words. All right, since you're so eager, I'll explain. Under English peerage law, the current Earl has no direct descendants, and among the collateral relatives, I'm the only male eligible. At the moment, I'm the sole person qualified to inherit the title. Do you understand, Mr. Trison? John refused to let it go. But there are so many Devonshire descendants in Devonshire. They could inherit the Earl's title. Why must it be you? I suspect there's some shady dealing going on. Oh, right, the reporters murmured, suddenly remembering the Duke of Devonshire. Do you need a doctor? William said, feigning concern. What is the Duke of Devonshire's surname? Cavendish. Need I say more, Mr. Trison? John, honestly, you should get a psychiatric evaluation. Don't delay treatment. You might thank me later. And when that happens, please do tell me. I'll open a bottle of champagne to celebrate your early diagnosis and the time you had to deal with it. The laughter that followed was loud and unrestrained. William hadn't explicitly called John mad, but everyone understood the implication. He'd even invited John to report his diagnosis so William could celebrate, a darkly humorous barb. The press loved it. Seeing the sun cornered felt almost cleansing. Mr. William Devonshire, does that mean, barring unforeseen circumstances, you'll be a peer in the near future? A reporter asked. Near future? William adjusted his tone. I'd say someday in the future. Hopefully that day is a long way off. I wish the current Earl good health. Honestly, the title isn't something I aspired to. Before today, I never imagined I could inherit it. This feels like God's arrangement. The reporters applauded again. The boy was 19. How could someone so young be so fluent under pressure? The journalist who had tried to corner him pressed on. All right, William, what about the Earl's family fortune? From what we know, when he took over the Devonshire estate 10 years ago, it was less than £400,000 in real estate. Now it's over £11 million. How do you explain inheriting so much out of thin air? Wow, is it that much? Doesn't that mean I'd eventually owe more than £5 million in inheritance tax? William pulled a face. Well, it's certainly fortunate. He thought for a moment and then continued. If I inherit the title and the Devonshire estate someday, after paying the inheritance tax, I will donate the remainder to the English Fund for the Protection of Women and Children. If it's £100 of assets, after paying 40% tax, I donate the remaining £60 in cash. I mean the total wealth as assessed by the authorities at that time. I won't sell the family's real estate, only donate cash. Of course, there's an important caveat, he added with a wry smile. I hope I'm not bankrupt by then, and that the Earl isn't exceedingly shrewd with his investments. Otherwise, there might be nothing left to inherit. He's increased his wealth nearly 30-fold in the last decade. Good heavens, 30 times! If in a few decades the government asks me, William, do you have £1 billion to inherit this title? I'll probably be desperate." Everyone smiled knowingly. William was deflecting and playing cute. It was a clever tactic. If the public liked him enough, objections to his succession would be muted. The Earl, watching the broadcast, found himself oddly softened by William's demeanor. The Duke of Devonshire and other nobles tuning in were also won over. William showed neither eagerness nor entitlement. The press conference wrapped precisely at 5. William shook hands with Roger Moore to say goodbye, but Roger wasn't ready to let him go. He discovered that William had a mature, promising project and didn't want to lose the chance to be involved. "William, we're friends now, aren't we?" Roger asked, making an effort to sound affable. "Of course, Roger, we're friends," William replied. He wasn't particularly eager to have Bacardi involved in the P3 project. They could provide money, but little else. Viacom, with its TV stations, might be more useful. He nodded toward the entrance where Diana Rigg stood, waving. "Besides, I have a date," he added with a wink. Roger chuckled. "All right, William, we at Bacardi are very interested in your Listen series. Let's set a time to talk properly." "I'm not short on funds right now," William said, "so tell me what Bacardi can bring beyond money. I need people who can help the project, not just investors." As the conference ended, the BBC rolled a panel of experts into the studio. "Professor Thomas, is the technology William Devonshire described feasible? And is that rough, handmade P3 really as good as he claims?" the host asked. A white-haired man in his 60s smiled into the camera. "Technically, what William described is achievable, and not impossibly so. The hard part is integrating the technologies and lowering costs to public-friendly levels. It's hard to believe one person could do what even a large company might struggle with, but when I saw the prototype P3 he presented, I had to reconsider." "If this is true," the host said to viewers, "and William has solved those problems, would you buy a P3 cheaper than current devices, with greater capacity, better sound, and more pleasing design?" "I know I would. I doubt the first run will be enough for London alone. William Devonshire first caught our attention as England's youngest billionaire, but less than 2 days later, he's shown how quickly that can change. In 6 months, he could be a multi-billionaire. William, you better not already be #1 on the rich list. I might have a heart attack." One of the experts laughed and agreed. "If everything unfolds as he says, $1 billion is not implausible." "And did you notice he mentioned drones before Diana interrupted? I'm curious what kind of drone he was referring to." Roger Moore, disinterested in the rest of the broadcast, turned back to William. "All right, let's set a meeting. I need to report back to the board. I won't intrude on your date. Have a wonderful evening." "Thanks, Roger. I'll call if I need anything. Goodbye." William shook his hand and then joined Diana Rigg, who had changed into a dress that made her even more striking than her earlier suit. He paused, genuinely impressed. "Diana, you're stunning." "Thank you, William. Call me Dean," she replied, pleased that his gaze confirmed her strategy had worked. "Shall we go?" Chapter 29, Diana Rigg. William offered his arm, and they left the hotel. As soon as they emerged, camera flashes assaulted them. Hotel security shepherded them to a Rolls-Royce provided by the Hilton. They dined at a Michelin 3-star restaurant, drank 3 bottles of wine, and by the end, Diana was tipsy, leaning on William as they left. She didn't seem to mind, and she clearly wanted the cameras to capture the intimacy. On the drive back to the hotel, the paparazzi on motorcycles trailed the Rolls ceaselessly, snapping photo after photo. Diana's intent was unmistakable. She wanted the world to see them together. Chapter 22. When they reached the hotel, William helped the tipsy Diana Rigg into her room. They sank onto the sofa. After a few push-ups, William went to the bathroom to shower. Diana had already dozed off, so he carried her into the tub, washed her sweating clothes from the night, and then carried her back to bed. They slept until morning. William was still in a deep sleep when Diana pinched his nose to wake him. Instinctively, he scanned her with his mental ability and suddenly let out a loud cry. Startled, Diana fell off the sofa with a thud, yelping. They both shook off the surprise and began an early morning workout together that lasted 2 hours. By the time they finished and showered, it was almost 11. "Damn you, William, you beast! You never stop. I'm practically dead," Diana complained as she put on her makeup. William came up behind her, hugged her, and kissed her cheek. How about a big lunch, then a trip to Oxford Street? Hurry up, Diana. I'm starving. I could eat a whole cow. If you don't hurry, I'll eat you. At the promise of shopping on Oxford Street, Diana's face lit up. She knew William wasn't offering a relationship. His manner made that clear. But as long as he didn't dislike her and wanted to spend time with her, she had hope. Where else could she find a man like him? Even a casual arrangement would be something. She smiled at his reckless generosity. Part of her enjoyed the thrill. By the time they reached the Michelin-starred restaurant, it was 1 o'clock. William was ravenous. As soon as the first plates arrived, he started eating with abandon, forgetting to be a gentleman. After lunch, he took Diana to Oxford Street. They didn't exactly cling to one another in public, but hand-holding and whispered conversation were unavoidable. Diana made a few deliberate, intimate gestures, and William didn't resist. They wandered from one luxury shop to another all afternoon. William spent 40 to 50,000 pounds on a handful of clothes and a handbag. Most items were 1,000 or two, but he relented when Diana hesitated only over a 20,000-pound bag. She handled the expensive indulgence with surprising restraint. She still knew how to pick sensible things. William liked that. Diana came across as savvy rather than spoiled, and he decided he wanted to keep her in his orbit. When they passed a Porsche dealership, William froze at the sight of a sky blue 1998 Porsche 911 on display. He had always loved Porsches. He took Diana's hand and led her inside. A saleswoman who recognized him from his live broadcasts approached with a practiced smile. "Good afternoon, Mr. Devlin Hill. I'm Lois, a Porsche sales consultant. Can I help you?" William smiled back and pointed at the 911. "Hi, Lois. I love that car. Do you have one in stock? I'd like to take it for a spin." Lois's smile widened. "This is the largest Porsche dealership in London. We carry every model available in the country. We've got a top-of-the-line 911 in the garage. Follow me and have a seat. I'll have my colleague bring it out." She barely had time to make the call when a walkie-talkie crackled. The car was ready. Lois led them outside, and there it was, the sky blue 911. "May I test drive it, Lois?" William asked. "Of course," she said. Lois rode shotgun as William sped out onto the ring road. The engine's roar thrilled him, and he pushed the car hard until Lois reminded him to slow down. He did a lap, calmed his pace, and returned to the dealership. Back at the showroom, William climbed out and grinned. "I'll take it. Please drop the bill." Lois almost beamed. "Right away, Mr. Devlin Hill." After he swiped his card, the paperwork was handled. The car needed window film and registration. The dealership would deliver it to him in about 2 hours. They continued shopping and then sat on a bench, sharing a large tub of ice cream when the dealership called to say the 911 was ready. The delivery arrived quickly. As William accepted the keys, paparazzi, who had been trailing them, descended, firing flashes. William slipped on his sunglasses and, on impulse, hooked Diana's pair that were hanging from her collar over her eyes too. She blushed at the sudden protectiveness. The photographers went wild. The images of them together would make tomorrow's headlines. William Devlin Hill spends a fortune on new love, LV handbags, and a Porsche 911. Or from tabloid reporter to potential Countess of Oxford, Diana Riggs' sudden rise. The press loved a good fairy tale. Morning workout. The next morning, Diana woke William before dawn. She was already dressed and doing her makeup, poised in a chair. "Darling, I have to go. I'm running late. If I'm late today, my supervisor will tear into me," she said. William placed his hands on her shoulders, smiling. "You haven't had your morning exercise yet. You can't give up halfway. I need to supervise you to see the results of all these workouts." William, a hint of mischief in his voice, produced a small device, the P3, he'd been working on, and set it on the table. "Come here and see this. I'll let you photograph it up close however you want. Maybe when you go back to the station, your supervisor won't scold you. He might beg you. You're the only reporter who can get up close with me." Diana's eyes lit up. "Are you serious?" "Of course. You're my first choice. I'll help however I can." Diana laughed and shoved him playfully. "You scoundrel. Don't flatter yourself. You're so well built. Who would believe this is your first time? This is my first week of working out so much that my legs are shaking." William looked at Diana, the long-lashed eyes, the narrow waist, the confident way she carried herself, and thought how well she fit the life around him. She noticed him staring, shuffled away and said, half defensive, "Don't even go there, William. No workouts this week. If I keep this up, I'll collapse." All right, he relented. "We'll go to the gym tomorrow. Come on, let's take some pictures. Put the P3 on the table. I'll take them myself. And this week, I'm resting. No working out." "How about the day after tomorrow?" he countered. "Whole week," she insisted. "I need it." William sighed. "Having a woman who's too busy for workouts, what a problem. Fine, rest. We'll talk later." He ordered breakfast from the front desk, showered, and came out to find Diana taking pictures of the P3 with a camera, excited and professional. After eating, he drove his new 911 to the TV station to drop her off. Before she stepped out, William recalled the archery test they'd agreed on. "Diana, I have an idea. Tell your supervisor I specifically requested you to be the host for our archery test program. Do you think he'd go for it?" "Really?" she asked, thrilled. "Yes. If he calls me about the archery test, tell him to schedule the recording and suggest you as the host, with my backing, and since you look great on camera, if you do a few on-location pieces, you might move from field reporter to on-air presenter." Diana threw her arms around him, kissing him and promising, breathless, "I'll do it. I'll talk to him. Maybe when you're famous, you'll come with me to the gym again." "Heh, I can handle you," William said, laughing. "I'll call you in a few days." "Don't forget," she said, lingering, fingers entwined with his for a long, flirtatious moment before she finally let go and sashayed into the station, hips swinging in a way that drew a few looks. William watched her go, pleased. She was pragmatic and ambitious. If he could help her rise a little higher, so much the better. He took out his phone and dialed Gareth Mallory at the Security Council to set up a meeting with his prospective boss. The call connected, and Gareth's teasing voice came through. "William, you Casanova, finally found time to call your boss. The papers have been full of you and Diana the past 2 days. That kind of attention will make some people at Downing Street uneasy, you know." Chapter 23. Aha! What do I care if they're unhappy? As long as you're not unhappy, that's all that matters. I don't answer to them. Besides, what's left of the special team now? It's just me, a lone cat, and even that's only for show. All the real power lies with your security committee. And now I, a billionaire, have to play your thug. If it weren't for my grandfather Henry, I wouldn't set foot in that blasted W group. Ha! Others would kill for the power you scoff at. Once you officially join us, you'll see how vast our influence is, William. This is the Devonshire family's legacy. You can't escape it. It was set from the moment you were born in England. Fine, Gareth. Where exactly are you? I don't even know where to find you. William grumbled into the phone. You can't expect me to just wander down to headquarters by the Thames, can you? In half an hour, be at London Bridge. I'll send someone to pick you up. Gareth hung up. Driving across the bridge, William watched the steady flow of cars and tourists. He never thought he'd end up a billionaire in this life. The movie world had its perks: wealth, sports cars, yachts, pretty women. If he ever grew bored, being a special operative might offer some diversion. The system had only unlocked the agent specialization for now. He'd try it out. If it got too dangerous, he'd run. If it was too much trouble, he'd hire someone. He wasn't the sort to do anything without a payoff. He parked near London Bridge in a down jacket. Not long after, a Range Rover pulled up. The passenger window rolled down, and a man in his 30s leaned out. "William Devonshire?" William nodded. "Get in." The car drove toward Westminster, into Downing Street, and pulled up to a building marked London Electricity Company Headquarters. They went up to the 10th floor. When William stepped out of the elevator, he saw a slim, middle-aged woman. Her ID badge read Catherine Davis. "I'll take him to Gareth's office," Catherine told the staffer who had escorted William. "You can go on with your work." She led William down the corridor. Gareth stood and greeted her on seeing them. "Catherine, what brings you here?" Catherine's expression was hard. "I was on my way to the archives and bumped into this young man. I'll bring him to you. I'm off now. Get back to work." Gareth opened the door and walked her out. He watched her go, then shut the door behind her. William looked around the office. There was nothing special, just a desk, a couple of filing cabinets, some chairs, and a liquor cabinet. Too plain, he thought. "Gareth, This is awfully basic. No couch, no pretty secretary? Your department must be poor. By the way, who was that older woman? You were all polite, old flame? William teased. Shut it, William, Gareth snapped. Her name is Catherine Davis. She's the Cabinet Security Committee liaison. Don't be an idiot. She's a rising star and could be in the cabinet soon. Keep your mouth shut when you see her. I'm under her leadership, and she's notoriously difficult. William felt relieved Catherine hadn't overheard him. Good. If she'd heard me, I'd be dead meat. Couldn't you have sent someone to meet me by the elevator? If I'd been unlucky, I could say I overheard you. Shut your big mouth. I haven't even asked what you've been up to these past couple of days, and you're already slandering me. Gareth rolled his eyes, then smiled. You must have been having fun. She's something else, you lucky dog. William grinned, scooting into a chair. With looks, money, and talent like mine, beauties just gravitate toward me. Spare me. Gareth dug a large folder from his desk and handed it to William. William dumped its contents on the desk, 2 ID cards and 10 personnel files. These are your IDs, Gareth said. One is for the London Electricity Company's power maintenance team leader. That's your cover. The other is an MI6 ID, security director. You'll be responsible for dealing with emergency incidents and report only to the committee. These 10 files are templates for your team members. Fill them out and submit the backup list to the bunker. You know where the bunker outside Buckingham Palace is, right? William picked up the IDs, glanced at them, and put them down. Of course I know the bunker. But Gareth, I'm famous now. Do I really need an electricity company cover? No one would buy that if I showed them. Gareth smiled. That's your problem. Or you could buy the London Electricity Company. Then I'll grant you a chairman's ID. No thanks. What would I do with that money-losing company? It'd be a headache. William waved him off. It's cheap at the moment. The whole company's going for only £70 million. Losses are from aging circuits and obsolete equipment. Buy and renovate, and you might turn a profit, Gareth said. I don't want it myself. The unions are a nightmare. Look, your team doesn't need to be at headquarters. You're an emergency action team. If you need info or to investigate, come to me. I have files on all MI6 personnel. Once you've assembled your team, you must, by regulation, submit a backup list to the bunker. Keep it confidential. You can investigate anyone you suspect, but you need evidence, and you'll take assignments from me. So if I don't give you assignments, you can't do anything? William asked with a pleased edge. It's not the 90s anymore, Gareth said with a sigh. There aren't as many special incidents. Everything now needs proof. Without evidence, nothing moves. Our hands are tied. If we do nothing, we don't make mistakes. Let MI6 handle the dangerous, complicated stuff. The higher-ups fear exposure above all. Public scandals ruin careers. You're a billionaire. This is just something to keep you occupied when you're idle. You're just trying to keep your power, William scoffed. I never intended to take back everything anyway. Leave the real authority to you and your crew. Then I can live the good life. I'm young. I want to enjoy life, not be chained to duty. Don't come looking for me to babysit your problems. William didn't buy Gareth's reassurances. He suspected these men wanted to use him as muscle. Dirty work with none of the rewards. He wasn't stupid enough to sign on without benefits. Let them fight among themselves. He'd watch. How do I recruit my people? William asked. You can recruit anyone you trust. Look through the archives or find people in society. Police, military, even mercenaries. Reliability is the priority, Gareth said, handing William a business card. This is one of our London archives. It has low-security personnel files. You recruit, you manage. If something goes wrong, it's on you. When there are no missions, you're civilians. Also, you'll be responsible for funding the team. I can provide equipment and some official IDs so you won't be easily targeted by authorities. William read the card. It listed the London Library. What could I possibly find there? He asked. The London Library basement houses a low-security archive, Gareth explained. We insiders have access to it. Many documents are quietly kept by noble families. Granting access is a perk. But be careful with secrecy. Many people already know your identity. Some are waiting to see you fail. William bristled at Gareth's teasing. Get lost, Gareth. Why do you all insist I form some secret squad? Isn't it enough to give me an identity? Gareth's voice dropped. If the Earl of Oxford had produced an heir, this wouldn't fall to you. In the past decade, he couldn't secure that position, and without an heir, no one trusted him with our secrets. Henry's arrangements made you the logical choice. Having this identity makes many things easier under the guise of the government. Our situation is precarious. Many want to replace us. We need strength to survive. Many of us run similar secret groups. With power, we can protect ourselves. William fell silent, considering Gareth's words. Living and protecting what he'd gained was a basic instinct. Even without the system, he'd been handed opportunities to become wealthy again. To keep his wealth and family safe, it made sense to build a power base. He didn't want to be exposed unless necessary. He didn't want to become a public enemy like the mutants from movies, because then everyone would try to exploit him for power. But if it came to life and death, he wouldn't hesitate. This was a movie world, not the imperial dynasty of his previous life. If things fell apart, he could always take his mother Lena, open a portal, and vanish under a new name, returning later for revenge if he wished. With the idea of a hidden, semi-private force running through the government, William felt better about the arrangement. It was protection for people like Gareth and himself. As long as the interests of those in power weren't threatened, these groups were tolerated. William drove to the London Library. After showing his electricity company ID, a staff member led him to the underground archives and demonstrated the computer system. Then the staffer left him alone. On the screen were files, police, military, even mercenaries. William clicked the mercenary list out of curiosity. There were more entries than he expected. As he flipped through, one face made him do a double take. A muscular, poker-faced man with a Van Dyke beard, skull and crow tattoos on his arms, wearing a beret, tough, stone-faced. The file named him Barney Ross, combat specialist, a charging fighter with a fast draw technique, 6 rounds in 1 second. His mercenary team was listed: Christmas Lee, Yin Yang, Caesar, Toll Road, and Gunnar Jensen. William blinked. Barney Ross, Christmas Lee, Yin Yang, Caesar, Toll Road, Gunnar Jensen. The names and the look of that poker face were all too familiar. In this world, the Expendables existed as actual mercenaries. William couldn't help smirking at the coincidence. The stoic leader, the compact, deadly Christmas Lee, the nimble Yin Yang, faces he recognized from films populated this file. He scrolled through the dossier, amused and intrigued at what might be available in this strange movie world version of London. Chapter 24, The Expendables. A commander and SAS veteran, a close-quarters combat specialist, a long-range weapons expert, an explosives man, and a master sniper, old hands all, each a master of his craft. Every mission completed, everyone charging a fortune, at least $1 million per job. William Devonshire rose from his chair and walked to the archives to pull every file on the Expendables. When he opened the file on Christmas Lee, he didn't hesitate. He dialed the number on the file. After a few rings, a voice answered. "Hello? Who is this?" "Hello, Christmas. My name is William Devonshire, head of security, MI6, soldier number S1967726, Christmas Lee. Do you have time to talk?" William had considered using a fake name, then dropped the idea. Since he'd taken over W Group, his identity was hardly a secret to anyone who needed to know. The Devonshire family had run W Group for more than 140 years. Those who could access such records already had. As long as he kept his plans from becoming public, the rest could stay hidden. There was a mix of disbelief and suspicion in the voice on the line. "What? How do you know me? William Devonshire? The Devonshire heir? A billionaire? Listen, this isn't funny. Stop messing with me." And then Christmas hung up. William smiled and called again. "Bastards, stop bothering me. If you call me again, I'll come over and—" Christmas began, only to be cut off. William didn't waste time. Christmas Lee. Real name Jason Statham. Born July 26, 1967, at St. Mary's Hospital, London. Trained in Wing Chun, Karate, and Taekwondo. Joined the British Army in 1987, entered the SAS in 1990. 31 combat deployments. Discharged in 1997 for injury. 6 months later, you joined Barney Ross's Expendables. Parents in London, older sister in Manchester with 3 kids. Proficient with throwing knives. My file has their names and addresses, too. There was a beat of stunned silence. Then the voice changed. Quieter, more formal. "Sir, Soldier, S967726, reporting for duty. What are your orders? Christmas had been an SAS operator. His records were supposed to stay confidential. If someone outside the right channels knew where his family lived, it was dangerous. He wondered whether this really was MI6 calling. Why would they be chasing down a retired mercenary like him? William didn't tell him the real reason. He was indulging a personal curiosity. He'd always liked the idea of assembling a team made up of the legends he'd admired in the movies of his previous life. He liked how the Expendables fit together and wanted them under his command. I need you in London tomorrow, William said. 7 p.m., London Bridge. Wear a baseball cap and hold a copy of the Times. Keep this meeting confidential. Understood, sir, Christmas said quickly. I'll book my flight now and be there. Good. Bring an excuse for being in town. This is off the record, William added. I understand. I'll be careful. After the call ended, Christmas cursed loudly. He was in New York, retired for 3 years, 33 years old. Why would MI6 be looking for him now? And who had accessed his family's information? He swore he'd teach this man a lesson if it was a bluff. If worse came to worst, he'd pack up his family, move to the States, and find a normal life. He didn't notice Barney Ross stepping out of the bar until after he'd been cursing for several minutes. Barney waited a beat and then asked casually, Hey, what's up, man? Christmas tamped down his fury. 3 years living side by side with these men built loyalty. He didn't want to drag Barney into something he might make public. Nothing, Barney. I've got some business in London. I'm heading out now, but I'll come find you once I'm done. Barney read him and tried to hide his concern. Okay, call if you need us. You know we're a team. Thanks, I'll be fine. They bumped fists, and Christmas rode off on his motorcycle. Barney lingered a moment, uneasy, then returned to the bar. The others noticed he was alone. Caesar asked, Where's Christmas? Why are you back without him? Thor was ready to compete in the knife-throwing bets. Barney hesitated, then explained. When I went out to call him, he was swearing into his phone. Something's up. He said he's got a job in London and had to leave. I think we should go check on him. The room went quiet for a second, then every man there answered in turn. We're a team. We don't leave a brother behind. If anyone messes with one of us, they've got all of us to answer to. Let's go to London. They had the means. The Expendables owned a Grumman HU-16 Albatross seaplane. No need to wait for commercial flights. They took off for London and landed half a day ahead of Christmas, who'd booked commercial passage. Their weapons were on board. On arrival, Barney sent Caesar and Toll Road to the airport to shadow Christmas, and the rest piled into 2 Land Rovers to move into town. Caesar and Toll Road, old comrades who knew Christmas's habits, tailed him at a distance. After a taxi into central London, Christmas checked into an ordinary hotel with a view of London Bridge. It was only 2 in the afternoon. He had a few hours to prepare. He intended to find out whether the MI6 contact was legitimate. If it was, fine. If it was a prank with threats to his family, he swore he'd make them pay. At 7, Christmas left the hotel, baseball cap low and a folded copy of the Times in his hand, and walked onto London Bridge to wait. William was already on the bridge, sitting on a long bench with his back to Christmas, watching a street painter sketch the Thames. He didn't need to turn around to know Christmas had arrived. His files and a quick visual scan had done the work for him. In his earlier life, he'd known the Expendables' reputations well. They were as recognizable in the field as they were on paper. William was cautious. He had to be sure whether the other Expendables were present. After 5 minutes, he picked up the faint signatures of 2 men across the bridge, Yin Yang and Toll Road, then detected the rest of the team arriving. They all carried radios. Christmas didn't. He realized Christmas had kept this meeting private from his teammates. William dug his phone out and, using a headset, dialed Christmas again without having to move or draw attention. The line clicked into life. Beep, beep. Christmas answered. Hello? Sir, I'm on the bridge. You're late. Everything okay? No, Christmas, William said coldly. You broke the agreement. Your buddies are all here on the bridge. You crossed the line, Christmas. You'd best pray to make it out of London alive. Soldier Eswin 67726. Goodbye. He cut the call and switched his phone off. Christmas stared at the disconnected call, alarm eating at him. He hit Barney's number before he could talk himself out of it. When the call connected, he didn't waste time. "Barney, are you guys on London Bridge?" Barney was silent for a beat, enough for Christmas to know the team was there. "We've been exposed," Barney said into his earpiece. "Yin Yang, Toll Road. Grab Caesar and head to the safe spot in London. Gunnar and I will pull Christmas. We'll shake the tail and link up with you. Be careful." "Understood," came quick replies into Barney's ear. Barney slammed the accelerator and roared across the bridge to where Christmas stood. They had been seen, and the evening that had been meant to be a private meeting had just become a firefight waiting to happen. Chapter 25. After William hung up, he walked slowly toward Yin Yang's car. From several dozen meters away, he placed a tracker on the vehicle using his mental power. Calmly, he returned to his own car and tailed Yin Yang, circling London for over an hour, while Caesar and Rode kept a constant watch on the rear. After making sure no one followed them, the three pulled up at an old house in the suburbs. Caesar and Rode got out, weapons ready, and slipped inside the safe house to clear it. When Caesar gave the all-clear, Yin Yang drove in and parked beside the house. William had left his car a few hundred meters away. He opened the trunk and took out the equipment he'd retrieved from a safe house. Garrus had pointed out that morning. 2 Glock 17 pistols with 10 magazines, an M4A1 rifle, an AWP sniper rifle, 2 basic ammo loads, 4 smoke grenades, flashbangs, stun grenades, walkie-talkies, listening devices, trackers, and 4 anesthetic smoke grenades. Fortunately, the ammo boxes were labeled. Otherwise, as a novice who'd only seen guns in CS, he wouldn't have known what to use. Dressed in a bulletproof vest and carrying his gear, William approached on foot, using the woods to conceal himself. He scanned the area with his mental power and avoided several hidden cameras. He stopped about 20 meters away, leaned against a big tree, and closed his eyes to wait for Barney and the others. Silently, using Mage Hand, he sent a listening device, a stun grenade, and 2 anesthetic smoke grenades into the safe house. Caesar's voice crackled in the earpiece. "What the hell is going on?" "I don't know either," Yin Yang replied. "We'll find out when Barney and Christmas arrive." "Damn it," Caesar muttered. After more than 20 minutes, William sensed another car approaching. Barney pulled up about 50 meters from the house and radioed Yin Yang. When Yin Yang confirmed the area was safe, Barney stopped and went inside. Once they were together, Barney pressed Christmas. "What's happening, Christmas? How did you get exposed, and who's coming after us?" Christmas kept his head down for a long time before he answered. "I can't say, Barney. If I tell you, I'll put you all at risk. We haven't engaged them yet. If you leave for America tonight, you'll be safe. I won't drag you into this." "Shit! How can we run if we don't even know who they are?" Gunnar snapped. Barney raised a hand to calm him. He knew Christmas wouldn't have come to London alone if he intended to betray them. The others listened, thought about it, and gradually nodded. They were old comrades who understood one another. Gunnar apologized to Christmas, and Christmas thanked them in return. "These opponents are out of our league," Christmas said quietly. "They found you at the bridge, which means they know each of us. Their reach in England is huge. They're after me. I'll stay and draw their attention. You guys get out while you can." Barney hesitated. "So they know each of us. Who could have that kind of intelligence?" "Christmas, how did you get tangled up with MI6? William's fingers tightened. He already suspected the truth. He wasn't an MI6 operative, but Barney guessed quickly. Seeing that the group was beginning to suspect the same thing, Christmas stopped hiding it. "Yesterday, an MI6 supervisor called and arranged to meet me in London. I hadn't even reached the bridge when I got another call saying I'd violated a confidentiality agreement and that they might move against us. You know the rest." William's patience snapped. From outside, using Mage Hand, he pulled the pin on a stun grenade he'd left inside the house. The explosion of sound inside was enormous. Even seasoned soldiers staggered from a blast in a confined space. The 6 Expendables members went down, stunned. William then used Mage Hand to deploy an anesthetic smoke grenade. As the gas spread, their bodies went limp. He waited another 10 minutes, then entered through the now open door and windows. 6 sprawled figures lay where they'd fallen. William taped their mouths and eyes, bound their hands and feet, and then went outside and loaded them into his Range Rover, the only vehicle that would fit 6 big men. He drove them about 10 kilometers into a remote forest, pulled the car off a hidden track, and tied each one to a tree. The anesthetic would last a few hours. Sitting in the car, William considered how he'd recruit them. They were stubborn, principled mercenaries, not people he could easily buy or threaten into work he found dishonorable. He felt guilty about hurting them. Their faces were familiar from films in his previous life, and he couldn't bring himself to kill them. He found Barney's cigar in his pocket, lit it, and lay back in the car to smoke. 2 hours later, his mental power told him someone was waking up. As expected, Master Huang, the man who used the alias Yin Yang, stirred first. William sat up and called out casually, as expected of Master Huang Fei Hong. "Since you're awake, stop pretending. Master Huang, let's talk. My record shows you have 2 daughters in Los Angeles. Want me to call them so they don't worry?" The threat of his daughters snapped Yin Yang out of his act. "Don't you dare. Do whatever you want to me, but don't touch my family." William stepped up, flashlight in hand, and shone it on the family names listed in a file. "You became a mercenary to support those girls. Work for me, and I'll pay. What do you say?" Yin Yang's face tightened. He'd cursed in his head. William had found everything about his family, where they lived, where they went to school. He was furious and anxious, but kept his composure. Barney had come to shortly after William left the car. Hearing William threaten Yin Yang's family, he quickly intervened. "Look, man, whatever you want, just don't threaten his family. Yin Yang's still useful. You'd have killed us by now if he wasn't." William smiled, annoyed at Barney for interfering and complicating his plan. "Barney, you're a seasoned leader, always calm even now, but you shouldn't have come to London. This isn't your call." He turned to the others. "Gunnar, Christmas, I advise you not to reach for any knives. I'm sure you've hidden small blades well, but my Glock is faster. Make another move, and it might go off." Christmas bristled. "Maybe we can see who's faster." William ignored him. He knew Christmas's throwing knives were dangerous, but Christmas didn't realize William was no ordinary man. Then he looked straight at Barney. "Since you barged in, you can't blame me. After all this, I need something from you. Tell me, who is Church at the CIA?" Barney's pupils narrowed. He looked down and lied, or pretended to. "I don't know who you mean. I haven't heard of Church. I know a guy named Trench. Maybe that's who you want." "Trench wants to be president, I heard." The others burst into amused chatter about Trench's ambitions. William found it darkly humorous that cinematic tropes existed in this world, too. He laughed, then abruptly fired a single round. Christmas groaned, slumped, and went still. The team's curses exploded, all the colorful language William had somehow mastered, and for a moment the forest filled with rage and profanity. William's patience was gone. "I told you not to move. Barney, tell me who Church is, or my next shot will be at him." Pointing his gun at Gunnar, he continued, "Gunnar, you're famous for those knives. It's a pity you might die here. Work for me instead." Gunnar stared with cold defiance. "Release me and we can settle this with blades. If I win, I talk." "Barney, don't say anything," Gunnar shouted. "If you do, he'll kill us all. You have to live to avenge us. Shoot me, Barney. Go on." Before Gunnar finished, William fired again. The team's shouts rose into a chorus of anger and threats. Caesar shouted, challenging William to shoot him instead. The ropes creaked under Barney's struggling, his eyes bloodshot with fury. William ignored the torrent of curses until they tired. Then he turned his gun toward Yin Yang. "No, don't shoot! Don't shoot!" I'll tell you, Barney pleaded, already grieving 2 lost comrades and not wanting Yin Yang's daughters to lose their father. Yin Yang himself shouted, "Don't say it, Barney. You can't. If you do, he'll kill us all. Barney, you must live. Only if you live can you protect my family." Barney's voice broke. "All right, I'll tell you. Church's full name is Bruce Willis. I don't know where he lives. I only know he's head of security for the CIA in New York, and usually..." At that instant, Christmas groaned and woke. Gunnar followed, stirring back to life not long after. William reholstered his Glock and cursed under his breath. "Damn it! What kind of anesthetic was that? People don't wake up in under 20 minutes." The remaining 4 then realized something. William's bullets hadn't actually hit Gunnar or Christmas. The shots had been terrifying and effective as intimidation, but they hadn't been fatal. The anesthetic had simply worn off much sooner than expected. Chapter 37. Recruiting the Expendables. William had Christmas and Gunnar tied to the far right of the group, Christmas being the outermost, then Gunnar, then Yin Yang, Toll Road, Caesar, and Barney. William fired a shot at a tree trunk, flicking his wrist the same way he'd practiced Bullseye's throwing knife technique from Marvel in his head. Because he was borrowing Bullseye's peak skill set mentally and had been using Mage Hand to steady his throws while drilling the motion all night, his aim was unusually good. He sent tranquilizer darts straight into the backs of Christmas's and Gunnar's necks, but, being inexperienced, he'd used too small a dose. There was no moon and the woods were dark, so none of the Expendables saw the tiny darts sink into their comrade's skin. The rest of the team assumed the gunfire hit their friends and the tree behind them. The sudden shot startled them. Seeing Christmas and Gunnar go limp, they instinctively concluded they'd been hit in the heart and died instantly. Gunnar blinked, dazed. "Guys, have we all gone to hell? Sigh, didn't expect to still be seeing you lot in hell." "You're the one in hell, Gunnar. You bastard. I'm glad you're not dead. Christmas too. Thought we were all done for." Caesar cursed, then added in a mock graceful tone, "God bless. Thank you, Lord, for sparing us." "I'm the one you should be thanking, Caesar," William said. He stepped up to Barney, took a small recorder from him, flipped it on, and listened to Barney's recording about the church. He smiled and handed it back. "This recorder is excellent, very clear. Barney, you spoke well, fast and loud. Looks like I've got something on you. I like you, huh?" William walked to Christmas and cut the ropes binding him with a dagger. Then he took a stack of files from the car and walked to Gunnar. "I've got all your detailed info. No one can slip past my sight. Gunnar, this is yours." He tossed a file at Gunnar's feet and moved down the line. "This one's yours, Yin Yang. This one's yours, Toll Road. This one's yours, Caesar. This one's yours, Barney. Ha, didn't expect you to have 3 such beautiful daughters, Barney. Look at them, angels. Maybe in 10 years you'll be a world-class father-in-law." He threw Barney's file at his feet. "If you have questions, ask Christmas or Barney, but don't tell the others. You wouldn't cause trouble for your teammates, would you, Barney?" William looked Barney in the eye. "Of course," Barney said quickly. "Only you and Christmas will know." "That's better," William grinned. "So, Barney, 6 lives, right?" Barney thought for a second and nodded. "Yes, sir. We had a rough spot, but the outcome turned out all right. I owe you 6 lives, and I'll repay you. If you need anything, you can find us." "Good. If I need anything, I'll find your contact, the tattoo artist." "What's his name again?" "Toll? I hear his tattooing and throwing knife skills are both excellent. I might get a tattoo sometime. Need to decide what to get first." "Well then, Barney, goodbye." William glanced at Christmas, who was untying himself, and at his nearly bald head and couldn't hide a smirk. He leaned in, a little meanly amused. "Hey, buddy, there's something I should tell you, but you might not be able to handle it." Christmas frowned. "What? I've already died once. What could I not handle?" William nodded toward his head. "All right, buddy. According to my information, your girlfriend's been cheating on you. My condolences." Caesar laughed out loud. "Told you. Didn't I say her big-chested girlfriend wasn't reliable? I warned you in the bar, but you wouldn't listen." "Shut up, Caesar. Now's not the time," Barney snapped. William tossed a bag of their belongings from the car onto the ground. "All right, I'm leaving. As for getting back to London, run. Consider it exercise. All your stuff's in that bag. Expendables, goodbye." He drove off. Once he was gone, Christmas found a knife and cut Gunnar loose. The 2 of them freed the others. After rubbing numb limbs and recovering weapons and gear, the 6 men stood in heavy silence. Finally, Caesar exploded. "Damn it, how long has it been since we were this humiliated? I can't remember the last time I went down without firing a shot. Who the hell was that guy? I never want to see him again." Barney patted his pockets, irritated. "That bastard took my Zippo. My daughter gave me that lighter." Yin Yang grunted. "Is now the time to talk about lighters? What do we do next?" Gunnar touched his neck where it still bled. "Who was that? If I find him, I'll ambush him." The jerk stuck a dart right in my throat. Toll Road sighed. "We should be grateful he didn't know blood vessels and dosing. If he had, you 2 wouldn't have woken up so quick. He could have gotten everything out of us." I didn't want to watch Yin Yang and Caesar getting gutted. He held his file up. Look at this. My whole past, everything. Even the story about my ear is written down. Caesar cut him off, eager to avoid repeating Toll Road's ear story for the 800th time. Same here. That bastard even knows how many girlfriends I had when I was young, the time I stole from a thug after leaving the army, and that my son knocked out 2 teeth at school. Does it need to be this detailed? They all turned to Christmas. Everyone had known William wanted to meet Christmas specifically. Their interference had landed them in their current mess. Barney said, "All right, I'll tell you what you can know. Don't ask about what you can't. You know the rules." Caesar wasn't satisfied. "We're just going to let it go? We've never been treated like this, bound like pigs and messed with at will." Chapter 38, or Should We All Hide in the Great Celestial Empire? Yin Yang glanced at Christmas and said to Caesar, "Don't you see? Who in this world can spot us the instant we appear, ambush us at a safe house, and take us down without a single shot? There aren't many. Think about who has the biggest, most powerful influence in England itself." Caesar's face fell as the realization hit him. Damn it, MI6. How could they get involved with us? We're just mercenaries, working for pay. Why would MI6 chase us? Gunnar scowled. They were after Christmas, and we walked straight into it. Now MI6 has leverage on us for selling out the CIA director. If we don't cooperate, we piss off both MI6 and the CIA. Where would we even go then? Yin Yang added, and they've got all our info. It's not easy to run with families to think about. Even if we fled, where would we go? You could always come with me to the Great Celestial Empire. It's safe there. Safe my ass, Gunnar barked. A bunch of white guys like us would stick out there. Yin Yang, you'd be fine, but I'm not going to a place without guns. I can't sleep without a gun and a knife. Barney, who'd been thinking, asked Christmas quietly, "Was that MI6? Christmas met their eyes and nodded bleakly. "I got a call yesterday. Someone claiming to be a director at MI6 asked me to come to London today. He knew about my family. I had to check it out. You all know my background in the SAS and that my family's all in England. If it really was MI6, I couldn't refuse. You know the rest. I'm sorry I dragged you into this." They were all silent. None of them blamed Christmas. He'd gone alone to check if MI6 was contacting him. They'd come to help, uninvited, and only made things worse. Barney stepped forward, knowing morale was sagging. "This is my fault. I underestimated the power of a government. Mercenaries aren't a match for a state apparatus. From now on, be more careful with missions. We absolutely cannot touch anything tied to the government." The others nodded. They'd always thought they were the best, unbeatable. Today's events had been a rude awakening. A single operator had neutralized an entire 6-man team. Barney watched their faces fall and pushed harder. "Listen," he said, "we ran into a country's power base. Of course they could find and ambush us there. It wasn't a fair fight, but that doesn't mean we're worthless. In the mercenary world, we're the best. Our mission success rate is 100%. No one else compares. Don't compare us to a nation. That's meaningless." "That's right. Among mercenaries, we're the best," they chorused, rallying. Barney grinned as their spirits returned. "All right, get ready. Gunnar, check the GPS. We move from this safe house to another." "Understood, boss." They packed up and left. An hour later, after a cautious drive and settling into a new safe house, Barney caught Christmas's eye. Christmas nodded, and the two stepped outside to speak in low voices. Chapter 27, Christmas. Who was that guy on TV today? William Devlin. What? The one on the BBC? Barney's face went slack. He'd never expected his opponent to be a 19-year-old kid, let alone some pervert trying to cozy up to his daughter. As soon as he got back to America, he decided he'd keep a closer watch on his girls. "He's a billionaire, a scientist, an inventor, a genius, and an aristocrat," Christmas said. "How could he be MI6? Are you sure, boss?" "I wish I weren't," Christmas replied. "But it's true. The Devlins have been around for centuries, some say longer. When I was in Special Forces, I heard rumors. For over 100 years, one member of each Devlin generation served with MI6. No one knew what they did exactly, just that they were MI6's secret team. Yesterday, William might have been trying to recruit me. Today, he wants our expendables." Christmas took a breath. "This is something only the two of us should know. We can't back out now. The others don't know the details and might still drop out if they wanted. And boss, you know how these people operate. I know, Barney said. We do the dirty work. As long as it's not beyond the line, no harming women or children, no being sent on suicide runs on purpose. I don't care who hires us, as long as they pay. He tried to convince himself. Barney and Christmas argued outside the safe house until they'd exhausted every angle. Why would William Devlin want them? Their combat skills were obvious, but agent work and mercenary work weren't the same. Agents specialized in stealth. Mercenaries solved problems with brute force. What neither of them guessed was the other side of it. William, after seeing footage and archives of the Expendables, had become a fan. He pictured a group of former stars who were now fierce fighters, a private unit that could settle any problem in minutes. Mercenaries would do anything for money, including murder and arson, but at least they had rules. They struck armed militants, not civilians. For William, that was reassurance enough. Secret bunker. Back at his own safe house, William pulled out the files he kept on Barney and Christmas, printed 2 copies, and slipped them into envelopes. He put on a coat, stepped outside, and called Christmas. He invited the 2 men to meet him at a cafe on Baker Street. William ordered dinner. When Barney and Christmas arrived, he greeted them, sat them down, and handed over the documents. He signaled the waiter for 3 coffees and watched them scan the files. They read in silence, then set the papers down and waited for him to speak. "All right," William said at last. "Sign and stamp these, and you can go. I'll contact you when there's a mission." Barney looked up. "Mr. Devlin, what do we do day to day? Where do we stay?" "You do what you always did," William replied. "I'll call when I have a job. You'll be paid as mercenaries are paid, per mission." Seeing Christmas about to ask a question, William added, "Ask everything now. Once you leave this cafe, you'll be secret operatives of MI6. Only I will know your identities. Not even MI6 officially knows. These are appointment letters from the UK Security Committee and my credentials." They read the letters and William's credentials carefully. When they were satisfied, both released the breath they'd been holding. They weren't thrilled about being subordinate to someone else, but they weren't in a position to refuse. William had leverage. They nodded. "Mr. Devlin," Christmas said, "what will we be asked to do?" William smiled. "You'll work in the shadows. I'll only request what you can handle. Barney, I don't need to tell you what you do best." Barney and Christmas exchanged looks and nodded. "You won't have files or identities in the outside world. You'll only be paid for missions. Only I know the password to the safe in Buckingham Palace. It's a Da Vinci Code-style cabinet, 18 rows, 26 letters, with a self-destruct. No one but me can open it intact. If you're exposed, it'll be because of you, and then you'll have to save your own skin, go into hiding, and hope your enemies don't find you." Barney tightened his jaw. He wanted to ask what would happen if William betrayed them on purpose, but he didn't. If that ever happened, he figured, it would be because they were no longer useful and had become a threat. In that case, William would eliminate them. Seeing no objections, William continued, "There is one more incentive, a generous severance. If you die on a mission, your family gets £5 million. If you're injured, $2 million and a job offer. I don't think many mercenary bosses offer that, Barney." Barney accepted the handout with a curt nod. "Thank you, Mr. Devlin. If anything happens, you'll know where to send it. Unless you tell me otherwise, I'll disperse it according to your family information," William replied. They sat for a moment, the future suddenly more dangerous and a little more interesting. After they left and drove away, William lingered, mentally scanning the cafe and the street outside with the sort of focus he'd learned to cultivate. He walked around the block twice to make sure no one followed him, then drove home. He hadn't been home in days, nor had he been to school. He still needed to take Barney and Christmas's files to the Buckingham Palace vault for safekeeping. Lately, memories of things his maternal grandfather had told him while sick had been gnawing at him, a stray English sentence in particular that had sounded meaningless. Now William suspected it was the password to his grandfather Henry's safe. If he was right, the other sentences Henry made him memorize might be clues, and he would have to visit the Earl's castle in Oxford later. The Oxford statutes were kept there. William drove to the small building outside Buckingham Palace. He rang the bell. An old man with white hair, well into his 60s, opened the door. "Sir, can I help you?" the man asked. William recited an old poem and, without fanfare, made more than a dozen tiny practiced gestures across his chest. The old man's face changed to a smile. "Welcome, Mr. Devlin," he said. "Call me Old Victor. Has it been 10 years since anyone from the Devlin family came to the bunker? I didn't expect the heir to pick up the family mission so young." William inwardly scowled at the word mission. He felt more like a cog in someone else's machine than an aristocrat with a vocation. The poem alone meant nothing. It was the gestures that mattered. If a visitor recited the poem without the gestures, Old Victor explained, he would be led to a fake basement that looked identical to the real one, but held only unimportant documents and flashy trinkets. The setup was simple and effective. The fake documents were real but useless, and any enemy who left with them would likely expose their accomplices. "You're welcome," William said. "The Devlin line stands strong. You'll see more of me." Old Victor led him inside and to an elevator. He scanned William's palm, iris, and voice print. Then, behind William's back, punched in a numeric code on a keypad. The elevator made a small click and began to descend. After almost a minute, it opened into a deep, secure level. William and Victor stepped into an alloy vault the size of a bank vault. Victor ran another security check and the vault door opened. Inside, 4 armed guards and a middle-aged man waited behind an iron gate. Beyond that gate, another vault door stood closed. Victor said, "Mr. Devlin, I can take you this far. There's another password that needs your confirmation." He gestured to the keypad on the gate. William entered the password. Victor turned and left, stepping back into the elevator. The middle-aged man escorted William through the iron gate to the last vault, a 100-square-meter room lined with hundreds of small locked compartments, each with its own code. The middle-aged man led William to the Devlin family compartment. "You'll need to enter your palm and retina prints," the man said. "The family hasn't been here for 10 years. The system was only upgraded recently. You have to re-register." William followed instructions. Once the biometric checks were done, the man said, "If you want to leave after you finish, press the pager in the room and I'll escort you out. You can't leave this area alone, and you can't get out without me. Understood?" William thought of the phrase that had irritated him a moment before. You can't leave alone. If someone wanted to trap him, they could lock him in and nothing would save him. He paused at the door. For a moment, he considered turning back. Football or no sun. He didn't hesitate for long. He opened the door and stepped inside. He had worked through the possibilities. This place was high-tech, but in the end it was still a physical bunker. He had something no one here could counter. Even in the worst-case scenario, he could open a portal and escape. And if anyone tried to trap him, he could disappear and, from safety, obliterate the place. He knew enough now to be sure. If he managed to get out, he would wipe the bunker from existence and leave nothing behind. Chapter 28. He had that ability. Modern architecture's worst enemies were fire and earthquakes. He could set the bunker alight and then use an earth spell to bring the whole thing down. When it came to life and death, William wouldn't hesitate to reveal his magic. With his life on the line, what else mattered? He entered the room and shut the door behind him. It was small, around 20 square meters, but it even had a bathroom and a bed. Why include that? Wouldn't it be a vulnerability? In movies, sewers and hidden exits are always easy to exploit. William didn't dwell on it. The people who built the bunker had likely thought of far more than he could. He scanned the room with his mental power and found no cameras or listening devices. Satisfied, he opened the cabinet. Inside was a half-meter-long combination cylinder, like something out of a Da Vinci Code prop. He set the password Henry had told him and opened it. There was only a single letter inside. William frowned. Henry hadn't even trusted the people in the bunker. He unfolded the paper. It was Henry's handwriting. "William, by the time you open this, 10 years will have passed, my dear grandson. I love you and your mother, but I can no longer stay. I only hope your grandmother does not follow me, though that seems unlikely. I pray she will remain with you. William, help me take care of your mother. Love her and look after her for both me and your grandmother." How I wish I had more time, but such things are not for me to command. Besides, our Devonshire family has not believed in God since the second generation of our ancestors. Remember what I told you. Find the Oxford Regulations. It is an amulet that has protected our family for over 1,000 years. Anyone who tries to open or destroy this secret must be eliminated. This secret belongs only to us. You cannot even tell your wife or your mother. If you have the chance, go to the family's old castle. A greater secret awaits you there. From now on, you cannot trust anyone. Anyone who approaches you may be after our secret. These things are tied to the future of the Devonshire family. They are the hope of our revival. How I wish I could watch you unravel that mystery. It is a secret for which I and our ancestors have spent dozens of lifetimes searching. Find it, and tell me and our ancestors at my grave. That was all. William didn't know what else the ancient castle might hide. He only knew his family had two major mysteries, an amulet, the Oxford Regulations, that protected them, and another secret his ancestors had chased for generations. What could be so crucial to the family's future? He thought through the possibilities: children, land and wealth, or power. Children were out. Power was unlikely in modern England. That left wealth. It seemed the generations before him had likely searched for a treasure. The idea of hunting down a centuries-old treasure felt hopeless. If it had eluded them for generations, what chance did he have? He could always build wealth himself, ride a market crash, invest in future blue chips, and in 10 years turn modest capital into a fortune. Still, he would at least see what Henry had hidden in the castle. After looking through the room and finding nothing else, William reset the cylinder's combination. He had not placed the files about Christmas and Barney in the cylinder. Henry had clearly stopped trusting the bunker's security. There was no place in the world he trusted more than his own private storage. Times change. Who knew what incidents had happened in the past decade? He didn't leave his data in some old bunker out of loyalty to an agreement no longer relevant. When he finished, he pressed the call button and sat down to wait. He didn't wait long. The middle-aged man who had escorted him earlier called through the door and told him to enter the password. The door opened. William took the elevator up to the ground floor, greeted old Victor, climbed into his car, and left. He had no desire to come back to that damned bunker. If Henry had lost faith in it, William wouldn't pretend otherwise. News of William entering the Devonshire family's private room spread fast. The Duke of Devon and the Earl of Oxford both learned of it quickly. Everyone assumed William was Henry's heir now. After all, he had inherited Henry's secrets. He drove home, replaying Henry's words in his head. One thing he'd wanted in recent days was the list of W members Henry had kept. He hadn't found it in the bunker. Either Henry had disbanded the W group, or he had hidden the list back at the family castle. William wanted that list because those people had served the Devonshires for decades, but he also feared what getting the list might bring. Had any of them changed? Were they living quiet lives with families now? The youngest of them must be in their late 30s or 40s. Many would have spouses and children. He didn't want to ruin anyone's life unless absolutely necessary. He drove home to find his mother, Lena, watching TV. She was a Chelsea fan and there was a match on. William went over and hugged her. Lena kissed his cheek and shoved him playfully away. "Don't bother me with interruptions, love. Go take a shower." William sulked a little. Englishmen were fanatical about football, he thought. After his shower, he put on pajamas and joined her on the sofa. "Where are our tenants?" he asked. "They moved out," Lena said without taking her eyes off the screen. "There are paparazzi everywhere now. If it weren't for what your grandfather left me, I'd move out too. They've been following me all week, asking questions every time I go out. Speaking of which, William, what's going on with that reporter? Are you involved? The paparazzi have been pestering me about that Diana, whether I'd object to you two dating. Honestly, they've been driving me mad. Also, don't you even think about getting married and having kids yet? I'm not ready to be a grandmother. The idea of a baby calling me Gran makes me shiver. Did you hear me? Why are you laughing? William, are you asking for a spanking?" Seeing Lena get riled, William quickly tried to charm her, rubbing her shoulders and massaging her legs. "Don't worry, Mum. I'm not 20 yet. I won't get married that soon. Having a girlfriend is one thing. Remember how you were worried I might be gay? Consider your fears put to rest. That's more like it, she said. Now don't disturb me watching the match. We'll talk about other things later. Okay, how about we go to the stadium sometime? Get a VIP box. It's no problem now that... Yes, why didn't I think of that? We're rich now. Call and book them. I want tickets for the whole season. She nearly shoved the phone into his hands. William booked as fast as he could and managed to get front-row season tickets, 2 consecutive seats in the 3rd row. He announced it with a grin. Mum, I got you middle season seats in the 3rd row. Had to pay a bit more, but you're going to be right there. You're amazing, Lena cooed, planting a kiss on his cheek before shoving him away. English women were just as crazy about football as men, he thought. He could only sit and watch the match with her. Early graduation. They stayed up until 10 that night watching the game and then talked into the late hours about Lena's coffee shop. She had named it Devonshire Coffee Shop. William smirked inwardly. Foreigners loved naming everything after the family name. He had done the same. His company was called Devonshire Industries, a little nudge towards Stark Industries. Hypocrisy, perhaps, but harmless. They talked until almost midnight before Lena let him go to bed. The next morning, William woke after 10. With little to occupy his time lately, he decided to go to the university and apply for graduation. He no longer wanted to be there. When he had no money, staying in school made sense. Now that he did, his ambitions had flown far beyond the campus. He picked up the phone and called Professor Roy Stephen. After the line connected, William said, "Good morning, Professor Roy. This is William Devonshire." "Good morning, William. How can I help?" Professor Roy replied. "I'd like to apply for graduation," William said. "Can the university arrange a defense for me? If not, I'd like a leave of absence. I don't have time to stay at university, and I feel my knowledge is sufficient for a bachelor's. Please apply for me." Professor Roy paused, thoughtful. "All right, William, your situation is unusual, and your recent work shows you have a strong grasp of the material. I'll submit an application on your behalf. If it goes through quickly, you could have an answer this afternoon. Wait for my notification." "Thank you very much, Professor. I'll wait." "Goodbye, William." William got up, showered, and sat on the first-floor sofa, eating the breakfast Lena had left him. He turned over in his mind what he would say in a graduation defense. He reviewed the knowledge stored in his head and the system, and with the current state of computing, he thought cloud storage would be a solid topic. The concept had existed for a while under the name network drives, but cloud storage was a newer, more appealing term. It was still an emerging idea, and he thought with a half-smile, exactly the sort of thing that could excite venture capitalists. Chapter 29. Aside from ordering takeout for lunch, William spent the rest of the day working at his computer. He had to be careful not to write about things that were too far ahead of their time. Doing so would be counterproductive. These ideas were potential income, after all. He also didn't want to end up like Tesla, whose brilliance in his previous life had bred envy and resentment and left him treated like an outcast. Being half a step ahead was enough. With a system like his, an ordinary undergraduate degree suddenly felt trivial, a far cry from the torment his graduation thesis had caused him before. At 2 in the afternoon, Professor Roy called and asked him to be at the university's computer science department by 3. 3 professors would conduct his defense that afternoon. William dressed, hopped into his Porsche 911, and drove to the university, strictly within the speed limit. He arrived before 2:30. Word had spread. Many at the university already knew William would be defending that afternoon. The school had prepared a large multimedia classroom. At 3 sharp, the professors arrived. After everyone sat, William, who had been waiting nearby, went on stage and greeted the 3 examiners. The back of the room was packed with students, and he noticed over a dozen journalists with cameras. "How did these journalists get in?" William whispered to the class monitor. "It wasn't exactly by the book," the monitor replied. "The university didn't want trouble. They opened it to the press. There are a few science magazine editors here. If you pass, having them here will make everything easier." William understood. A public defense would let him graduate smoothly, fulfill the university's wish for another distinguished alumnus and quiet critics. When Professor Roy saw William ready, he said, "All right, let's begin." The defense lasted over 3 hours. The three professors asked detailed questions, and then the science magazine editors chipped in. Thanks to his system, William could recall everything he'd learned and understand it easily. It was a cheat code for life. The length of the defense wasn't because he couldn't answer. It was because he had to pick his words carefully. He didn't want to reveal specific technical details from a decade in the future. Looking ahead was acceptable, but concrete, cutting-edge specifics would leave people stunned and suspicious. At last, when there were no more questions, the professors and editors huddled. Professor Roy, seated in the center, rose and conferred briefly with the editors. He returned to the main seat and addressed William. "William Devereux, after consulting with the other professors and the editors, we have unanimously decided to approve your graduation. Congratulations." Enthusiastic applause filled the room. Many were impressed by William's performance. Some PhD students even felt he knew more than they did. William hurriedly nodded and thanked everyone. Thank you, professors, and the editors. Thank you all." A professor beside Roy interrupted. "No, William, you don't need to thank us. Based on today's performance, I think you could apply for a PhD. You should consider continuing at this university. With your level, you could be ready for a doctoral defense after just 1 year." The classroom erupted. "What? A PhD already?" Students muttered in disbelief. An editor stood up. "I agree. The breadth and depth of your knowledge exceed what ordinary PhD students master. I'd even say you could be considered for an associate professorship. Your answers contained ideas that are genuinely forward-thinking. Congratulations, truly a genius." Some in the audience wondered if he was cheating. The journalists looked like they wanted to take him home and interrogate him at leisure. This would be news. After the formalities, students raised their hands wanting to ask questions. At the professor's signal, William chose a big-eyed girl who looked genuinely curious. "William, why are you able to learn so fast and know so much? Could you share your study methods?" William thought for a moment and lied by omission. "Interest and curiosity. My memory is very good. I rarely forget what I've seen. The more I remember, the more questions I have, and those questions push me to learn more. Over time, it just built up." Many in the room grumbled inwardly. "Great. He studies all day, and we work hard and still can't catch up." A journalist egged him on. "Demonstrate your photographic memory. Show us." "Yeah, show us." The crowd shouted. Even Professor Roy leaned back with a smile. A student produced a deck of cards. "William, look here." "All right," William said. "Have him shuffle the deck. I'll look through them once, and then I'll call each one as he flips them." "Okay," came the chorus. William accepted the shuffled cards and ran through them in his hand while someone on the side timed him. He finished before 30 seconds had passed and signaled he was ready. The timer called out, 28 seconds, and the room buzzed. The student began flipping the cards. 7 of diamonds, 3 of hearts, 10 of clubs, William recited as each card turned. He named every single card without a mistake. The audience stood and applauded while cameras clicked relentlessly. They tested him further with a book, and he memorized 1,000 English words in under 2 minutes, leaving people dumbfounded. Finally, the university awarded him his degree and graduation certificate. He donned the academic gown for commemorative photos and posed with classmates. Several girls even hugged his arm and kissed his cheek for the camera. Relieved to have it behind him, William felt exhausted despite his superior stamina. He drove home, washed up, and slept. He had no idea the footage of that afternoon had been recorded and had somehow reached the BBC. That same evening at 8, the network ran a special program titled England's Prodigy, William Devereux. It opened with his card memorization feat, memorizing a deck in less than 28 seconds, and viewers were amazed. Clips of his brilliant answers aired, and though much of the discussion was technical, audiences were impressed. Professor Roy's announcement of his passing, and the opinions that his knowledge exceeded PhD level and might qualify him for an associate professorship, left viewers stunned. The segment noted that William had already made over £100 million from selling games and had invented a new MP3 player, predicting he could soon be England's youngest billionaire. The story made him an instant idol. Young women swooned, middle-aged viewers admired his entrepreneurial success, and the press quickly spread the story internationally. The Los Angeles Times called him a global icon, England's darling, and a role model for the next generation. In America, street interviews returned the same answer. Many girls would marry him. The Chinese Street Daily hailed him as the most talented billionaire of the new century. News outlets across Europe and America picked up the story. William Devereux, heir to an earldom and suddenly a worldwide sensation. William slept through it all. The next morning his phone rang, but he had no idea what the world had been saying about him overnight. Chapter 30, Chapter 43, Tina Hendricks. William fumbled for the nightstand, still half asleep. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, William, Gareth's voice answered through the phone. William hummed, and then went quiet. Hello, William, are you still there? Gareth asked. William replied again. Gareth glanced at his watch, 9:55 a.m., and sounded exasperated. It's almost 10. Why are you still in bed? Did you have another party with a beautiful woman last night? William rolled onto his stomach. Is there something you need, Gareth? If not, I'm hanging up. All right, do you have time this afternoon? I've arranged to meet a few people. If you're free, come by and meet everyone. Okay, where? I'll send it to your phone. 3 p.m., don't forget. Okay, bye. William hung up, groggy, and after washing up, he checked the message Gareth had sent. 1 Tower of 457 Baker Street. He frowned. Was there even such a number? Whatever. Gareth would be at a bar. He'd take a taxi if he needed directions. After dressing, William drove to his mother's coffee shop. He hadn't been there since Lena bought it and figured it was a good time to see what she'd done with the place. He found the Devonshire Cafe on Oxford Street, parked, and pushed the door open. Welcome. A pretty waitress greeted him. William smiled and followed her to a window table. The cafe's decor was distinctly English. Round-legged wooden chairs, small circular tables, large glass panels, and 2 rows of red sofas along the wall. Warm tones made the place feel cozy. William ordered, "A latte, please." "Certainly, Mr. Devonshire. Shall I tell Mrs. Devonshire you're here?" the waitress asked softly. She gave him a look that could have been flirtatious, and William felt a small thrill. She was lovely, maybe 16 or 17, with flowing blonde hair, large eyes, a slender nose, and pink lips. Young and fresh-faced, she gave off a bright, innocent charm. William reminded himself he wouldn't try anything in his mother's cafe. Still, he smiled. "If Lena isn't busy, please do. Thank you." "Of course, Mr. Devonshire. My name's Tina. I finish at 5. Tina winked and sashayed toward the counter, blowing William a playful kiss over her shoulder. William laughed. It felt good to be noticed. Lena appeared then and shot a glare at the two of them. Tina hurried over and, with the quick deference of someone who knew her role, said, "Mrs. Devonshire, William just ordered a latte. I'll get it. Any instructions, madam?" "No," Lena said sharply. "Go get his coffee." "Yes, madam." Tina then turned and placed the latte in front of William with a little curtsy. Before she left, she flashed him another wink, cheeks flushed. "Tina, you can call me William," he said, amused. "I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. How long has it been?" Tina covered her mouth, delighted. "It must be over 10 years, right? We haven't seen each other since you moved to London with Grandpa Henry." "Big brother William, I still remember when you took me to the old castle and broke my favorite doll." She wrinkled her nose in an adorable impersonation of a sulk. Lena watched the exchange and scolded William. "Don't get any ideas about Tina. She's Aunt Mary's daughter. You met her when you were little. You even broke her doll, remember?" William tried to picture the girl who once sobbed for an hour over a destroyed toy. That plump Aunt Mary, the one who used to weigh over 200 pounds. Lena shot him a look. "How can you talk like that?" Tina set the lat down and, seeing Lena's stern face, went back to the counter. William leaned toward his mother and asked, "How did Tina end up in London working here?" Lena sighed. "You have money now, so I thought it was time we looked into the old family castle. Lade, I called Aunt Mary in Oxford to ask about it. Tina heard and insisted on coming to London to see you really. She's been working here because she wanted to be close. I'll be sending her back to school in Oxford soon." "Mom, she just arrived a few days ago. Isn't that a bit harsh? Besides, Aunt Mary's family are old friends. We'll need their help when we buy the castle back." "All right. Let her stay a few more days, then send her back, Lena relented. One more thing, don't come to the cafe these next few days. I don't want to see you rallying for attention here. Do you understand, William Devonshire? Okay, Mom. William nodded quickly. Lena rose to tend to other matters, leaving him to his latte. He finished it, and around noon, ordered lunch. Tina brought it on a tray. Busy with the midday rush, she only said, "Big brother William, today's bread is very good. You should try it," and then moved on to help other customers. As William tore into a little roll, he noticed a strip of paper tucked beneath it. He unfolded it to find a phone number. He smiled and slipped the paper into his pocket. Tina happened to glance over and caught him putting the note away. She smiled sweetly, and when he looked back, pouted charmingly. After lunch and another cup of coffee, William went to pay. As he left, he made a small gesture to Tina he'd call, and she nodded. He drove off, sending Tina a quick text to say he was busy and would take her sightseeing in London when he had time. Chapter 44. The Goblet Pub. William made his way in his Porsche 911 to a small pub tucked down a back alley in Mayfair. The Goblet. It was a little hard to find, more countryside inn than central London hangout, but he parked and headed inside. He wondered why Gareth would pick such an out-of-the-way place for a meeting. The pub was quiet, only a few patrons at just before 2 in the afternoon. William took a seat at the bar and ordered an Irish whiskey. Bored, he struck up a conversation with the bartender, a striking woman with an easy laugh. She told him the pub dated back to the 1650s and was one of the oldest in Mayfair. The paintings on the walls, she said, were portraits of 18th century politicians. William glanced up and could only name one familiar face, a portrait of Churchill hanging alone above the fireplace. They chatted about the pub's history and its odd stories. William's anecdotes had the bartender covering her mouth and laughing more than once. He didn't notice when Gareth and a few others pushed through the door behind him. Chapter 31. When Gareth walked in, he spotted William chatting animatedly with a beautiful woman at the bar. He shrugged at the 7 or 8 people following him, a little speechless. He hadn't realized William Deverell could be such a flirt. Ever since William started selling games, he seemed to have changed. The quiet, introverted man he'd known was gone, replaced by someone who freely joked with women wherever he went. "Hey, William." William turned and saw Gareth enter with a group of sharply dressed men. They were a mix of black and white, all in suits, looking very much like gentlemen. William immediately recognized the man leading them, Prince Charles, and at his side, his 19-year-old son, Prince Wilson. William stood and nodded, offering a polite greeting. Gareth introduced him. "This is William Deverell." "William, I don't think I need to introduce these two," Gareth added. "Prince Charles and Prince Wilson. Who in England didn't know them?" William quickly stepped forward and shook both princes' hands. "Of course, who doesn't know Prince Charles and Prince Wilson? It's an honor to meet you, your royal highnesses." Prince Charles smiled and squeezed William's hand. "Please call me Charles. What he said isn't quite right, William. At the moment, you're the most talked-about person in London. The papers and TV have been full of you these past few days. Wilson insisted on coming when he heard you'd be at tonight's party, and luckily he's old enough to be here. I'd like to invite you to my home sometime. Harry likes you too, but he's not old enough to be in a bar yet." "It would be my honor," William said. Prince Wilson, still flushed with excitement, held William's hand. "William, I'm your fan. Harry and I both admire you, especially that you developed a game all by yourself. My friends and I are amazed. We've been playing for days and still can't beat it. Could you come to Kensington Palace and play with us? I'm desperate to see what comes after level 4. William smiled at the eager young prince. "Of course, Wilson. I'd be happy to visit when I have the time." "Then it's settled," Wilson said. "How about tomorrow? It's the weekend, and Harry and I don't have school. Call me Wilson, and I'll call you William." William thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right, 10 o'clock tomorrow, then." Perfect. In this world, Prince Charles and Princess Diana had a warm relationship. Even in their 70s, they still held hands in public. Their family life was reported as harmonious. As a result, Wilson and his younger brother Harry had enjoyed a good childhood. Wilson was a little boyish, but William found him easy to talk to and quickly took a liking to him. Gareth continued the introductions. This is Commander Richard Bromley, commander of the London Police Special Operations Team. Hello, Commander, William greeted. Hello, William. These are Arthur Kane, Harry Hart, Merlin Strong, and Johnny English, Gareth finished. William recognized the names as Gareth spoke. Arthur Kane, head of Kingsman, and Harry Hart and Merlin Strong, instructors from Kingsman. Then there was Johnny English, who immediately brought Mr. Bean to William's mind from the films. The man had that same odd, comical quality. Johnny English covered his mouth and yawned theatrically, which made William laugh. The resemblance was uncanny. All right, William, now that everyone's met, let's move to the cigar room behind the bar for a drink, Gareth suggested. Best idea I've heard all night. I'm dying of boredom, Johnny English announced, waggling his hips as he led the way. Wilson, seeing his father's drinking companions up close for the first time, looked puzzled by some of their rougher manners. Prince Charles laughed and reassured him. Johnny is like that, but he's a good bloke. Once you get to know him, he brings so much life to the table. Come on, my son. This is your first time in a place like this. I need to keep an eye on you. If you get drunk, your mother will give me a hard time. I don't want to be banished to the study tonight. William, you come with me. They moved into a 2-story Gothic room behind the bar. William hadn't realized the bar out front was just a facade. The real big glass bar was tucked away behind it, filled with medieval decor and an old-fashioned, private club atmosphere. Only waiters and a bartender were circling the room, no other customers. Prince Charles explained, "This is a members-only club. You have to be introduced by a member. If you like it, you can take out a membership. There are 2 tiers. Basic is £3,000 a year, and the second tier is $10,000. Members can sample their house whiskey and beer for free. Their whiskey is excellent." William thought it sounded reasonable and decided to sign up. The whiskey tasted better than any Irish whiskey he'd tried. The owner must be wealthy to offer such quality as a member perk. William asked a waiter to sign him up and upgraded to the second-tier membership. He figured he might come here often. William and Wilson sat together and swapped gaming tips. William also asked about traditional British sports: fox hunting, golf, tennis, equestrianism, polo, snooker, squash, and rowing. Most of these had been aristocratic pursuits historically, though many had become more popular over time. Apart from equestrian sports, polo and fox hunting still carried that old aristocratic flavor. After chatting, Wilson even invited William to join their fox hunt in the autumn. William was intrigued. He'd need a good horse and a respectable hunting rifle, and he'd have to learn to ride properly. He didn't want to embarrass himself in the field. "Hey, William, interested in joining our card game?" Gareth asked. William looked over and saw most of the group already seated at a large round table near the edge of the room, waiting for the dealer. He smiled and stood, taking his glass with him. "I think I'll pass," William said as he approached. "I don't want to win all your money and make you curse me. Haven't you seen TV? I'm a memory genius. I can memorize a deck in 20 seconds. "You'd never stop bragging, would you?" Gareth grumbled. "You haven't even played. And what's memory got to do with Texas Hold'em? It's about patience, psychology, and technique." William protested with mock innocence. All right. Couldn't you have let me keep my little reputation with the new friends? Let them think I'm an old pro?" He sat down beside the dealer without hesitation. The others laughed at his banter. Only Arthur Kane gave a slight, knowing nod. Those who knew Arthur understood his reputation. His small nod made them wary, like someone being told not to underestimate their opponent. The game had a starting stake of £2,000 per person, no rebuys, and blinds of 10 and 20. William had played Hold'em in his previous life in small games and had learned a few valuable lessons. He wasn't a novice. More importantly, he had a knack for reading people, subtle tells in the eyes, micro-movements, and muscle reactions when someone checked their hole cards. He could often deduce what an opponent had and when they were bluffing. That kind of precision made his bluffs effective and his folds timely. For the first hour or two, the table struggled against him. William bluffed at the right moments and folded when danger was real. Veterans who were used to exploiting obvious mistakes found themselves on the defensive. Before long, Only William and Arthur remained. On the final hand, Arthur's full house was beaten by William's straight flush, and the night ended. Everyone was astonished. 7 or 8 seasoned players had been beaten in just 2 hours. Even those who'd known William's reputation were surprised to see it proven so decisively. Wilson had watched from William's side the whole time and understood something subtle. Multiple times when William folded, his opponents actually held better cards. It was as if William could see through them. "William," Wilson asked as the chips were gathering, "how did you always avoid getting trapped? Like that hand where you had pocket kings and my father had queen-jack, and the board was 4, 7, queen, queen. Why did you seem to know my father had a queen before the river? You didn't even look at the last card. What if the river had been a king?" William chuckled. "Playing Hold'em isn't about the cards you have. It's about figuring out what cards your opponent has. Small movements, the way someone's eyes change when they look at their cards, little muscle twitches. They don't lie. When the 4th card came, I noticed Prince Charles's pupils contract and a tiny shake in his hand. Those are signs of a strong holding. The rest is probability." He didn't tell Wilson the simpler fact that 2 kings had already been folded into the muck earlier that round, making a 4th king impossible, but Wilson didn't press him. "Probability's a long conversation," William added. "I won't bore you with math in a bar." Wilson immediately lost interest at the mention of mathematics. The others laughed and cursed good-naturedly. "Next time we play with William, we'll have to wear sunglasses and sit completely still like mannequins," someone joked. They cleared the table and poured another round of whiskey. The private room hummed with easy conversation, and William found himself welcomed into a new circle, his game and his presence having more impact than he'd expected. "Yeah, I never thought you'd be able to read an opponent's pupils and body language like that. I've never even heard of a technique like it. William, you must have other tricks you're not telling us. Teach me. I've never won a card game against you. Give me some secret tips so I can win for once," Garrick pleaded, tugging William closer across the table. William shook his head. "I told you, they're secret tips. If I teach you, what will I play next time? I'm not giving away my exclusive tricks." He wouldn't admit the truth. He could, with concentration, see the cards an opponent picked up when they looked at them. He couldn't read covered cards, but watching what they handled gave him a huge edge in Texas Hold'em, and an even bigger one in stud. Anyone foolish enough to play stud with him would be ruined. By 6 o'clock, Prince Charles had risen to leave, taking Prince Wilson home for dinner. Princess Diana was strict with Wilson, William noted with a private smile. Once the royals were gone, Garrick and Commander Richard Bromley steered William into a corner of the bar. A waiter brought over a bottle of whiskey. Garrick wasted no time. "William, is your W team recruitment finished?" he asked. William glanced at Bromley and kept quiet. Garrick answered for him. "Don't worry, Richard's one of us. Your involvement is effectively public among our circle. Everyone knows the Devonshire family has begun to take control of the W team. Richard here commands the Police Counterterrorism Special Operations Unit, and he needs some off-book help." William blinked, a flicker of recognition running through him. Bromley's face reminded him of a commander from a movie he'd seen in his previous life. Should he recruit Jackie Chan too? He pushed the thought away. "There are only a few of us you can speak to about details," William said. "You know the rules." Garrick and Bromley nodded. Bromley leaned close. "I need your help, William. I need people outside any official department to track someone down." "Who?" William asked. "A Madagascan mercenary named Carlos. We suspect he's preparing to blow up the Skywalk 570. Garrick handed William a file. William opened it, and the first image made him pause. A huge 4-engine passenger jet, larger than any commercial aircraft he'd seen before, its lines ungainly but imposing. Bromley explained, "It's a new type from Skywalk Aviation. They claim it can carry over 600 passengers, 200 more than the largest airliners now. The company is at a critical stage. Our national airline has a 30% stake in the Skywalk 570's development. If something happened to it, our losses would be tens of billions of pounds. We can't allow that." William looked at Garrick. "Why isn't MI6 handling this?" he asked. If there were moles in the police, MI6 should be the logical lead. Garrick hesitated. We suspect there are traitors in MI6 as well. William stared. You're joking. It's not a joke. Garrick's voice was low. For years, our security committee has suspected leaks in MI6. We kept finding compromises in Europe and Africa, but never the source. That's one reason the committee backed re-establishing your W team. We need a unit outside all existing departments to investigate covertly. William weighed the offer. A team with special operational authority and the freedom to investigate anyone at a cost. When do you need us? He asked. The sooner the better, Bromley said urgently. The Skywalk 570's test flight is only days away. All right. William tapped the photograph of Carlos and took a quick picture with his phone. He added the file, the photo, and the mission requirements and sent them to Barney of the Expendables. I'll issue the mission to my team tonight. They can depart for Madagascar tomorrow. Negotiations followed at the bar. Practicalities Garrick couldn't be bothered with, but William insisted on handling. What do you want for compensation? Garrick said, feigning indignation. You're rich. Are you still going to nickel and dime me for tens of thousands? Our department is poor. £200,000 isn't money, William shot back. I'll be funding my team. You expect me to do this for free? When did I say 200,000? Garrick replied defensively. We're only asking what's reasonable. For 200,000, you could hire a private mercenary group to catch him. Round tens of thousands up, and you get 200, William said. Who works for nothing now? Not even the king. And that money isn't yours to give without formalities. I'll need a proper mission fee. Garrick exhaled. Fine, 100,000, not a penny more. William accepted. Better than nothing. But he wasn't done. I also need a formal letter of authorization from the Security Committee, Special Operational Authority. It must state that under exceptional circumstances I have the right to take extreme measures. Without that, I won't accept the job. I don't want someone to come after me when it's over. Garrick looked at him oddly. Don't you have a family document from your lineage? Didn't Henry give you something like that? That document is decades old, and I haven't inherited the title yet. Who knows whether the current government would honor it if things go wrong? I don't want to invite trouble. William's tone left no room for argument. From now on, for any mission you give me, I want formal authorization from the committee. Garrick's expression shifted. Inside, he was pleased. If William accepted committee appointment, it meant another useful asset aligned with them without the committee having to maintain him. He'd be difficult, yes, but workable. All right, Garrick said. You'll get the formal authorization tonight. William thought of the advantages a sanctioned title would bring. It would be a legal license to send people into the worst places, to send people into hell if necessary. Still, it had to be used sensibly. One abuse and the authorization would vanish. And one more thing, William continued. There's more? Garrick sighed. Even though some people already know my MI6 identity, I can't use it openly every time. If the media exposes me, I'll have no life left. William ran a hand through his hair. Give me a cover title, Action Consultant to the English Security Committee. It's not much on paper, but it'll let me handle things more easily if my identity comes under scrutiny. Garrick didn't even hesitate this time. No problem. I'll have that sent to you tonight. Good. William relaxed. That settles it. Bromley glanced at his watch. It's dinner time. Shall we go to Bailey Street and try their pizza? Garrick made a face as if he'd been hoping for the very suggestion. Sounds good, Garrick said. I haven't had it in ages. Thanks for your help, William. Let's keep in touch. Bromley shook his hand and stood. Garrick slipped away without another demand. William didn't mind. He'd gotten what he needed. The committee's backing, a cover title, and a fee. As Garrick and Bromley left, his phone pinged. A short message from Barney lit the screen. Received. Understood. Departing in an hour. William scowled. When did he get so laconic? Just understood? Doesn't he have any questions? He muttered, unaware that Barney, now attedly brief, had no idea he was being complained about. Chapter 33. The Expendables had only just returned to America when they were being sent off to Madagascar again. William hadn't even discussed the mercenary fee at first. If there was no payment, wouldn't they be working for free? Barney brooded over it. None of them were getting rich. Fortunately, William did remember to pay, and he called Barney. "Hey, Barney, how much commission do you usually charge for this kind of job?" he asked. "Sir, the expendables bad rate is pretty high. We don't normally take these kinds of gigs, but since it's a mission, let's say $300,000, Barney replied. For them, catching a person was straightforward. $300,000, roughly 180,000 pounds. William huffed inwardly. Damn, I'd be losing 80,000 pounds, he thought sourly. He wasn't about to skimp on the money they earned risking their lives, but he was annoyed with Garrick. He'd make Garrick pay him back, double, someday. Watching the movie in his head, he remembered that the CIA's church had given the Expendables $5 million and had assumed hiring them would cost at least several $100,000, if not $1 million. $300,000 didn't seem outrageous in that light. Then he reminded himself why Church had paid so much. Church and his team had tried repeatedly and failed. They'd paid handsomely to hire the Expendables because the job was dangerous and uncertain. If not for lucky circumstances on the island, the team might have been wiped out. It was a popcorn movie, entertaining despite its holes. All right, Barney, to make it official, I'll send a contract to your agent, Toll. I don't think Toll will refuse, right? William said. Yes, sir. I'll tell Toll we're helping a friend, Barney answered. Good. From now on, our relationship will be employer and employee. If I have missions for you, I'll go by the rules of the mercenary world. The only difference is you won't be allowed to refuse. Understood, sir, Barney replied, sounding a little flat. The Expendables were used to roaming free. Obedience sat oddly with them, but they had families now, attachments that tamed reckless habits. Besides, they weren't planning to quit. As long as William paid, and perhaps offered other benefits later, better intelligence, access to information they couldn't get themselves, they would take the work. William couldn't figure out why Barney had become so deferential. He watched Arthur Kane, Harry Hart, and Merlin Strong approach and wondered what they wanted. He had seen Kingsman in a movie and knew Arthur Kane could be ruthless beneath a friendly face. He kept his guard up. Arthur Kane smiled as he fell into step beside him. William, I don't know how much you know about us, he began, letting the sentence hang. But I see it in your eyes. Am I right? He paused and stared into William's face. William, no match for these seasoned veterans, couldn't bluff his way through. He could hardly say, I saw you in a movie, so he stayed quiet. I suppose Henry might have told you something, or left you with some of my information, Arthur continued. Otherwise, you wouldn't seem to know me the first time we met. Am I right, William? That explanation fit too neatly. William allowed himself a small inward chuckle. Arthur had given him the way out. William nodded. I know of you and of Harry Hart and Instructor Merlin Strong, he said. Ah, so it's true, Arthur said, and the smile thinned. That old man, Henry Winston Devonshire, left you a good deal of Britain's secrets. Arthur's friendly gaze went cold, examining William as if he were prey. William hurried to explain. No, I only saw information about Kingsman Academy. Henry had thought about arranging for me to study at the academy, so he left some introductions. Arthur resumed his pleasant mask, but his eyes were hard. No, William Devonshire, you're lying. Merlin Strong only joined the academy 8 years ago, and Henry died before then. You're lying. William cursed inwardly. The movie had tripped him up. How could he possibly know when Merlin had joined? He kept silent. The more he spoke, the worse he'd look. He felt outclassed by these old hands. Harry Hart's expression toward him, however, was puzzling. Relief, admiration, even a kind of concern flickered across his face. Why did William think of the word care? It felt odd, and when he looked again, the expression had smoothed away. William's system-modified brain raced. Had Harry Hart once been part of W under his grandfather Henry? The thought surprised him. Henry had warned William not to trust anyone. Perhaps Henry had suspected former W members might come looking for him. After 10 years, their motives were unknowable. Even in a world that sometimes felt like a movie, William refused to trust casually. Arthur softened his tone. We suspected that Henry might leave something behind, but we couldn't confirm it. William, a clever man like you, has been out of sight for almost a decade. I'm sure Henry had his reasons. I don't know what he taught you, but I hope you'll come to our academy to learn properly. It would do you good. Do me a favor, William said bluntly. I don't have time for the academy, and I'm not interested. I like making money. If Henry hadn't wanted me to inherit his business, I wouldn't be here as a spy. I'm not interested in building a W group. It's not Henry's era anymore. The 90s are long gone. Arthur's smile hardened. Foolish, William Devonshire. Henry could have left you information, but the world has changed. What he taught you 10 years ago may be outdated, and you have to consider your mother. She's an ordinary person. The moment Arthur mentioned his mother, Lena, something in William snapped. The nervous, shy young man melted away, and something ferocious surfaced. Arthur Kane, Harry Hart, and Merlin Strong felt it like a physical pressure bearing down on them. Sweat prickled on their skin. Merlin, who'd seen few missions, stumbled a step back, trembling. He stared at William and could barely speak. William unleashed the edge of his power and then steadied himself, speaking through clenched teeth. If anyone touches Lena, I will destroy them. I mean it. Don't pretend you waited 10 years without making a move because you were honorable. Henry must have left a contingency that made you cautious. Tell anyone who'd try to trouble us to back off. When I lose it, even I am afraid. Rules don't matter. If Lena is harmed, I'll wipe out their whole family. Only when William drew his power in did their own fears begin to ebb. Arthur Kane let out a long breath. What did that scoundrel Henry teach him? He muttered to himself. He hadn't felt such alarm in decades. Merlin stared at William with naked fright. He'd heard rumors that William had, a few days before, taken down 007 and 3 elite Secret Service agents using only coins, keys, and rope. Now he realized the stories might have understated what William was capable of. Harry looked at William with surprise. Henry had not been an extraordinary fighter. How had he left William something that made him so dangerous even after 10 years hidden? Arthur, regaining his composure, changed tactics. William, your best move now is to prove you're on our side. If we consider you one of us, at least the old men won't move against you, and the British government is less likely to act. This mission is an opportunity. To join a group, you must first contribute. You know that. Shh, William said. Is this about proving loyalty? Everyone has to do something to get in. Who doesn't? How you do it is your business, William said. But don't worry, we're on the same side, Arthur are. I'll show with actions that I'm not someone to be toyed with. Arthur smiled again, though cautiously. That's better. We're looking forward to your performance. Don't disappoint us, William. Chapter 34. A Visit to Kensington Palace. When William heard the old man tell him to wait and see his performance, he felt a pulse of irritation. You're not some martyr or loyal retainer, he thought. If you betray me, I'll kill you. He forced a smile and said aloud, We'll see, Arthur. Maybe the next time we meet, you'll be surprised. Next time, I'll kill you, he continued to tell himself. I'm authorized by the Security Council now. I can investigate anyone. Don't give me a reason to find something. It'll be your end. Arthur Kane shivered without quite knowing why. After years as an agent, the uneasy feeling that something unlucky was about to happen tugged at him. The two men shook hands and parted ways. William exchanged greetings with Merlin Strong and Harry Hart as well, and when they separated, Harry slipped him a small folded note in the handshake. Don't trust anyone, it read. William rolled his eyes. Damn it, another brain-racking task. Of course he didn't trust anyone, not even Harry. If an agent's promise could be taken at face value, pigs would fly. That night, he didn't feel like going to see Tina. He brooded over Arthur, frustrated at how trouble seemed to shadow him as soon as he rose to a certain level. Every world was the same, he thought. Reach a certain standing and the trouble finds you. In movie worlds, the villains were relentless. In reality, there were plenty of dangerous people, too. So after leaving the bar, he headed for the best shooting club he could find. He needed to vent and to practice. William's system-trained reflexes and his body's enhancements made him a natural. He had the kind of marksmanship and throwing knife precision other people would call superhuman, but practice was still necessary. Talent only shortened the learning curve. It didn't replace the hours at the range. He'd learned firearms and throwing knives out of pure necessity. Magic was not something to use openly, and he had no official power to rely on. If anyone pushed him too far, assassination was an option. Teleportation made an alibi easy. vanish thousands of miles in seconds, do what needed doing, come back 10 minutes later. Who would believe he could travel that far and return in such a brief window? In his previous life, he'd been ordinary. Now he was wealthy. He wasn't interested in ruling the world, only in enjoying it. Becoming rich only sharpened that desire. He wanted to play without being bothered. Anyone who threatened that would be dealt with. And the world's psychopaths who wanted to destroy everything? He'd remove them. Peace meant freedom to play. He shot for 3 hours. The difference showed quickly. Every shot found the bullseye, and his abnormal stamina let him fire nearly 500 rounds without fatigue. He spent another 2 hours practicing throwing knives until those too hit with quick accuracy. He'd enjoyed himself until the bill arrived. Nearly 10,000 pounds for a few hours of practice. Bloody hell, each bullet almost 10 pounds a shot. America would have been cheaper, he thought, where you could buy guns and shoot more freely. By the time he paid, he'd decided he wouldn't be back to that club. The boss smiled like a viper. William thought about the money and felt the familiar twinge of how easily it was earned and how easily he could spend it. When he got home, Lena was asleep. He showered and went to bed early. He woke the next morning at 8, remembering his appointment at Kensington Palace. After a quick wash and decent clothes, he drove to his mother Lena's coffee shop for breakfast. Luckily, she'd left early. If she'd been there, she might have kicked him out. He chatted with Tina before leaving. She was young and pretty, just over 16, not yet an adult, and despite the tug of temptation, he held back. He didn't want the trouble that a misstep with Aunt Mary would bring. After a little harmless flirting, they talked until 9:20. Tina walked him to the door, hopeful for a goodbye kiss, but he only hugged her and said farewell. She stood on the doorstep, a little disappointed, wondering if she should be more forward next time. Kensington Palace was in central London, less than 20 minutes away. William parked and waited 10 minutes before ringing the gate bell. Prince Wilson's face appeared on the screen. When he opened the gate, William drove inside. At the entrance, Prince Wilson and Prince Harry stood with a butler and a few maids. William greeted the two young princes with a hug and handed over 2 modest gifts: a cheat code for Plants vs. Zombies he'd written that morning, and a bottle of 1982 Lafite. The princes were delighted by the personal game code. The butler gave a discreet, approving nod at the wine. In 2082 Lafite had not yet reached the astronomical prices it would command later. It was a tasteful and appropriate present. Inside the palace, William met Princess Diana. Not yet fully versed in royal protocol, he offered a polite greeting. Diana, who was working to make the monarchy appear more approachable, took it in stride. She introduced him to the 2 young princes and, after a warm, motherly welcome, excused herself so the boys could show him around. Kensington felt lived in rather than museum-like. Large oil paintings and murals hung on the walls among family photos, books, candles, and greenery. The rooms were elegant but comfortable, a royal home rather than an empty monument. The 2 young princes took him through their private apartments and collections until it was time for lunch. Princess Diana and Prince Charles joined them for the meal, which the young princes had set up. William's manners might have been a little unpolished, but his conversation was anything but ordinary. He spoke about technology with an authority that startled them. When he described devices that would make calls, send messages, access the internet, play movies, make video calls, handle banking and payments, and function like portable computers, Diana and Charles exchanged amazed looks. A decade later, Diana would recall in a book that when William visited Kensington Palace in 2000, he had already sketched much of the digital future, a fact that made many rethink how early William Devonhill had begun to shape his path. After a leisurely lunch and a half-hour rest, the princes took him to the palace's indoor riding arena. William had never ridden before, but his modified brain and body learned fast. Under patient coaching, he was trotting after 30 minutes. It wasn't a grand gallop, just a steady trot, but Prince Harry couldn't reconcile that the boy he'd watched struggle mounting a horse a little earlier could learn so quickly. At 16, Harry found the ease with which William picked things up both awe-inspiring and a little unnerving. Just as William was enjoying the novelty of riding, his phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw the name Diana Rigg. He smiled and answered casually, "Hi, Diana. Miss me that much?" Chapter 35. I wasn't thinking about you at all, William. Did you forget what you promised me? God, I knew you didn't care about me at all. William, you're such an ass. Diana Rigg scolded. William remembered exactly what she meant, but he'd been busy the last few days. Still, a beautiful woman was worth placating. Darling, of course I remember. I've just been occupied. I won't forget my promise. I've been thinking about you every day. How about we meet tonight? Humph, I'm not feeling great right now, you brute. Don't think I don't know what you want. Diana laughed and scolded him. Then she suddenly cried out, William, what are you doing? I hear hooves. Oh, William Devonshire, you have time to go horseback riding, but no time to meet me. You jerk, I'm breaking up with you. Chapter 49, Olympic Archery Range. Seeing Diana furious, William hurried to explain. I'm actually a guest at Kensington Palace today, riding with Prince Wilson and Prince Harry. Prince Wilson invited me yesterday. If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. How could I believe that? You don't even know His Royal Highness, Diana shot back. William glanced at Wilson and Harry, who were eavesdropping nearby, and pleaded, Wilson, help me. Wilson seized the moment to demand a favor. You owe me one. When I want it back, you'll have to repay me. William considered and nodded. All right, I owe you a favor, but make sure it's something I can do. Fine. Wilson and William high-fived to seal it. Wilson then took William's phone. Hello? Is this Miss Diana? I'm Wilson Lewis, he said into the receiver. Diana let out a surprised squeal. William moved the phone away from his ear. Oh my God, are you really Prince Wilson? You're not kidding? How do you know, William? Can I interview you, Your Royal Highness? Wilson was overwhelmed by her questions. Prince Harry, watching, smirked at William. I feel kind of sorry for you now, William. My girlfriend is so much better. She never bothers me. William didn't hesitate. Harry, you little kid, talking about a girlfriend? Have you even held a girl's hand? I heard the Queen is strict with you. Your brother had several girlfriends by the time he was 15. I heard you haven't had one yet. Who's been spreading rumors? Harry blurted. I have a girlfriend. I just haven't told anyone. I only told Wilson. William, you're the second. Please don't tell anyone. Mother wants me to wait until I'm 16 to make it official. It's only a few months. Don't let my mother or Diana find out. He put a hand on William's shoulder. My lips are sealed. If the Queen finds out, it'll be because you slipped up yourself, William said confidently. Harry's face registered a dawning realization. William's type of person. God, I shouldn't have told you. I didn't know you were so shameless. Ha, I'm teaching you not to tell secrets, not even to your best mates. I'm kidding. I won't say a word. William laughed and patted Harry's shoulder. Then he turned to the call. Diana, she says you still owe her a date and asked if you could do it today. How about testing that promise here in Kensington? I also want to see if your archery skills are as good as you claimed at the press conference. There's an indoor archery range at Kensington. No, Kensington's no good. Too many reporters, too much hassle, William said, checking his watch. It's only 3 o'clock. How about the Olympic Stadium? It's not far, but if you two go, we should get the Queen's permission first. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare take you. We go out all the time, Harry said eagerly. Wilson nodded. Harry quickly called their mother. William took the phone back and spoke to Diana. Darling, can you meet us at the Olympic Stadium? If all goes well, we'll start at 4. Fine, Diana replied. I'll arrange a press vehicle. The supervisor will approve. I'll see you soon. She hung up. Mother agreed, but we have to be home before 6, Harry said, pleased. Okay, Wilson and Harry, get ready. I need to go to the archery range first to prepare. Find a bow and get familiar with it. If I mess up during the test, that'd be embarrassing. Meet me at the range. They waved, and William left the stables, driven by a servant to the Olympic archery range. The staff had already been notified by the BBC. William bought sportswear, changed, and guided by a middle-aged coach, selected a bow. He picked a high-pound recurve, set it to 64 pounds, and drew it as if it were nothing. The coach's eyes widened. He'd never seen anyone pull a 64-pound bow so effortlessly. Curious, he took the bow and tried it himself. He could draw it, but it was strenuous. His arm began to shake, and he quickly let the string go. William smiled at the coach's astonished look, selected 30 arrows, and asked to go to the line. He had half an hour to acclimate. His previous life had given him a strong feel for archery, like a video game character nearly maxed out. And now, with Hawkeye-level accuracy and superior physical strength, he felt he'd finally reached the top. After about 10 warm-up shots, he had the bow's feel. The next 20 were bullseyes. He even shot the last 10 with his eyes closed and still hit the center. Applause broke out behind him. Turning, he saw Wilson and Harry arriving with 4 sharply dressed bodyguards. William set down his bow and embraced them. Harry threw an arm around his shoulder. "William, can you teach me? You're amazing. Archery is the coolest sport for men now, way better than golf or tennis. If I could do this, the girls at school would go wild." "Oh, please, Harry. Last month you said competitive rapid-fire shooting was the coolest. You practiced for months and are just getting good, and now you want to jump to something else? Mum'll have your hide," Wilson grumbled. "You're jealous," Harry shot back. "Wilson's practiced for months and still can't hit the target like I can. I have real talent." "Harry, if you're serious, be prepared to practice for 10 years. I've trained almost a decade. You can try, but you won't match me after a few months," William said with a smile. Wilson chimed in, warning Harry not to be fickle. "Archery's harder than a shotgun sport. Stick with one thing." "I'll keep up rapid-fire shooting, but I'll try archery too. William, you teach me archery, and I'll teach you rapid-fire shooting. Deal?" Harry persisted. "Fine. Try it. If you have talent, it'll be a hobby. If not, quit early. And don't forget, I'm also pretty good at shooting," William replied. "Great. We should have a competition." "Wilson, forget it. I bet I could beat you one-handed," Harry taunted. "If you do that, you'll just make a fool of yourself," Wilson said, amused. William laughed. "If Harry actually does that, you'll be the joke, not him." Wilson realized the truth of it and began to laugh too. Chapter 50. I Must Get You on the Olympic Team. By 3:30, the BBC crew had arrived, and reporters crowded the range. With the chaos, a 4 o'clock start looked uncertain. Diana Rigg appeared then, wearing the Chanel suit she'd bought with William on their last shopping trip. Sharp, simple, hair in soft waves, the blouse buttons straining slightly. She smiled, hugged William, and amid the crowd's cheers, kissed his cheek. Reporters booed, calling for a kiss on the mouth, but Diana knew her limits. William wasn't officially her boyfriend, and as a media professional, she was careful about appearances. After Arthur Kane's remarks yesterday, William was even more cautious about public relationships. He had enough to worry about with his mother as leverage. He didn't need another woman who could be used against him. Just before 4, with the BBC's live equipment finally set up, Diana took the microphone and walked to the center of the venue to begin the broadcast. "Hello, everyone. I'm Diana Rigg, a frontline reporter for BBC Television. We're live at the Olympic Archery Hall, and beside me is Mr. William Devonshire. Today he's here to fulfill a bold promise he made a few days ago. He'll attempt an impossible shot, hitting the bullseye from 70 meters away while blindfolded. Mr. Devonshire, do you feel confident about this challenge?" "Absolutely. I'm confident in my archery. Talk is cheap. We'll let the shot do the talking." Diana turned to the camera. "That's right. Anything we say now is superfluous. The results will speak for themselves. Thank you, Mr. Devonshire. We'll give our challenger a little time to prepare. William, good luck." William smiled and went to the line to get ready. He knew there was nothing to gain from boasting. The work would speak for him. Once he left, Diana addressed the viewers again. "With us today is Mr. Smith Brown, head coach of the England archery team." The camera cut to Smith Brown as he approached. "Hello, Diana, and hello to all our viewers. I'm Smith Brown, head coach of the England archery team," he said. Diana offered him the microphone. "Thank you for joining us, Mr. Brown. Do you think William's challenge will succeed?" Smith Brown considered the question and answered with a wry smile. "If it were anyone else, I'd say it was impossible. But this is William Devonshire, the dream of half of England's young women. I'll only say anything is possible, though I wouldn't bet the house on it. Besides, if I spoke ill of him, my 2 little angels at home might not let me in tonight." He shrugged theatrically, and the audience, in the arena and at home, laughed at the unexpected humor from the serious mid-50s coach. Diana grinned. All right, Mr. Brown. Normal circumstances, William excluded. You can't keep Mr. Brown out of his house. Smith Brown grew more serious as he explained the mechanics. At 70 meters, the bullseye is tiny, about the size of a thumbtack at arm's length, if not smaller. In archery, you don't so much see the bullseye as you aim for it. If William truly closes his eyes, I don't know how he'll orient himself. But he's William Devonshire, so anything's possible. Let's wait and see. Mr. Brown, if he can really do this, would he qualify for the next Olympics? Diana asked. Smith's expression tightened. This test is at the Olympic distance. If he posts the results and wants to try out, we'll welcome him for a formal trial. Archery is a sport where performance speaks. If he can produce the scores, I'll recommend him for the team. The staff signaled that William was ready. The camera swung to him and then zoomed out to show 5 targets set at 70 meters. He would shoot 3 arrows at each target over 2 rounds, 30 arrows in total. Diana watched him draw his bow, suddenly feeling more invested than she'd expected. A sensational success would boost her ratings. A failure could reflect poorly on the broadcast. She silently hoped his first arrow would find the bullseye. The arrow thudded into the dead center with a clean sound. "Oh my," Diana cried, pointing to the screen. The crowd and the reporters gasped. No one expected such accuracy. Every arrow William released in that first round found the 10 ring. 15 consecutive bullseyes. Smith Brown was agape. He knew archery, he'd coached champions, and he knew no one could routinely put 15 arrows in the center with a 64-pound bow while looking so relaxed. This was beyond remarkable. It was record-breaking. Smith watched William's calm, measured movements and began to imagine the implications. Get him on the team, he thought. He'd be a gold medal prospect. Pair him with 2 reliable teammates, and we might break the South Korean stranglehold. Fame and funding would follow. He resolved then and there to recruit William by whatever means necessary. William finished the first round without tiring. For the second round, he planned to show a few theatrical tricks. He would take the first 6 arrows in a conventional way, then on the last 3 targets, shoot 2 arrows apiece to get a feel for them before attempting the final arrows blindfolded. His mental reach, his ability to scan the distance, had improved in the last few days. What had been 20-30 meters was approaching 40. Hitting a blindfolded 70-meter bullseye every time was beyond his certainty, but he felt confident enough to try. Nearby, 2 young royals cheered him on. Prince Wilson and Prince Harry, comfortable in front of the cameras, flirted with the spotlight. After William's 15th arrow, they sprang up, Harry rushing over to embrace William with theatrical delight. William didn't mind the mutual promotion. He knew fame could be used. Reputation, he thought, could guard against the wrong sort of trouble. He wasn't particularly afraid of criminals. He could handle them. But he respected the danger of attracting official scrutiny. He hadn't been reborn to live in hiding. He wanted to live openly, not like a shadow. The trio chatted and laughed as camera flashes peppered the scene. After a few minutes, the BBC staff signaled the next sequence. William returned to the line, inspected the arrows the staff handed back, and assumed his stance. He drew and released. Another perfect bullseye. The crowd erupted. He drew a second arrow, turned his head to look toward the audience, and released it. The arrow flew true and struck the 10. Viewers at home realized only then that William had deliberately looked away at the moment of release, a move almost indistinguishable from shooting blind. The BBC knew a ratings coup when they saw one. Smiles spread through the production crew. For his third shot, William executed a classic over-the-shoulder shot, the old cavalry trick of firing while turning. The crowd cheered, though some of the thrill had already peaked. Those who understood combat archery, however, appreciated the practicality of the technique. At the next target, William knocked 3 arrows, drawing and holding them, before releasing in rapid succession so that the 3 struck the bullseye in a tight triangular cluster. The sight of 3 arrows so precisely arranged sent the crowd into renewed frenzy. Women screamed, a few fainted. Police on site called for backup as the stands grew chaotic. Staff signaled William to stop. He took the staff's megaphone and urged calm. He didn't want anyone hurt. An injury would turn triumph into disaster for both him and the BBC. Reinforcements arrived, and order was restored. One young woman had to be restrained from rushing the field and broke into sobs when officers pulled her back. William stepped forward, gently intervened, and spoke with the girl until she calmed. After mediating with the police and assuring them no one meant harm, he helped smooth the situation so the event could continue without incident. Chapter 37. William hugged the little girl and walked her back to the audience seats. The crowd erupted in spontaneous applause, many shouting, "Well done, William!" He kept waving and saying, "Thank you," and it took nearly 10 minutes for the din to die down. He clapped the worried looks from Wilson and Harry away to show he was fine, then smiled and waved to Diana Rigg, who had been watching anxiously. The camera lingered on her. Girls watching at home hissed and called her a bitch. They didn't want William to have a girlfriend. The men at home, though, looked at Diana, tall, golden-haired, with a sweet face and generous figure, and privately wished she were theirs. The commotion had gone on too long. Their 40-minute live slot was already over, but the BBC's on-site director had no intention of rushing William. The station had called, viewership was soaring, and everyone wanted more airtime. The director even asked William if he wanted to rest. William checked his watch, nearly 5 o'clock. If he stayed later, he would miss Prince Charles's dinner. He didn't want to keep people waiting. He shook his head. "I'm fine. Let's finish now. It's better to avoid any more complications." "All right, you call the shots," the director said. William picked up his bow again, gestured to the audience that he was about to continue, and the stadium fell silent. Diana handed him a blindfold. He accepted it, put it on, and signaled he would shoot blindfolded. Amid the audience's eager anticipation, he loosed 2 arrows, then pulled the blindfold down fully over his eyes. He drew, breathed, released. The first arrow thudded into the target. When he lifted the blindfold, the big screen showed an 8-ring hit. The crowd cheered anyway. Hitting the target blindfolded was remarkable in itself. William nodded. He had felt the shot wouldn't find the bull, and quieted them with a smile. He stood there again, put the blindfold back on, and released 2 more arrows. When he pulled the blindfold off, both had landed dead center, bullseye after bullseye. The stadium went silent with reverent awe. The second and third arrows swished and thudded into the heart of the target, and the place exploded into deafening applause and screams. On the big screen, 3 arrows glimmered dead center in the 4th target, one after another in the very middle. It looked like a miracle. Only 1 target remained. For the last target, William did something different. He did not lower the blindfold. He closed his eyes and emptied his mind. The crowd watched, tense and curious. After 2 long minutes, he suddenly drew and sent off an arrow. It stuck about halfway into the target. There was nothing spectacular in that first shot. The audience leaned forward. Then he drew and released again. The second arrow struck the tail of the first with a loud thud. Slow motion replay on the big screen showed the impact drive the first arrow clean through the target. The second arrow lodged where the first had been. Before anyone could recover, William fired a third arrow. It struck the tail of the second, driving the second arrow through as well, and leaving the third embedded. The stadium went berserk. William looked at the big screen, beaming, and raised his arms high. He had done something legendary, a sequence of shots that drove arrows through one another and through the target. It was a technique whispered about in the old tales of the great celestial dynasty, a skill that many thought long lost. Harry and Wilson rushed up, slapping his shoulder and high-fiving him, eyes alight with admiration. In their eyes, he was unrivaled, arguably the best archer in the world. Diana Rigg dashed over with a camera and microphone, breathless. "William, how do you feel? How did you train for this?" she asked, nearly trembling. She knew this would make her famous too. She had been bold enough to ask him out a few days before, and the payoff was already immense. William smiled, turned toward the sky, and put on a show. "Excitement and gratitude," he said. "I want to thank my grandfather Henry, up in heaven, for teaching me, and my mother and my grandmother. I love them. Mom, I love you." He pretended to wipe away tears. It was a convenient story. Those who knew a little of his background understood Henry was the sort of man who could open doors ordinary people couldn't, and that William's abilities were the product of rigorous, unusual training and exceptional talent. As for training, William went on, choosing his words, it's a mix of standard methods and a few family techniques passed down in the Devonshire line for generations. I'm sorry, I can't reveal the family secrets. I'll only teach them to my children. Besides, in this era, bows have mostly been replaced by firearms. Archery belongs more to sport than battlefield these days. Since you mentioned sport, Diana said, eyes already imagining headlines, have you thought about representing England in the Olympics? If you entered, you'd surely take gold. Audience, do you agree? Yes. He wouldn't even need his full strength to win. Absolutely. Someone in the crowd wondered aloud whether England had ever won a men's archery gold. They didn't know, but everyone agreed that from now on, men's archery would belong to William Devonshire. William considered it. An Olympic title would be a legacy he could show his future children, proof that their father had been the best. It was a good idea. He nodded. I'd like to compete, he said. I'll have to check my eligibility with the organizing committee. You won't be shut out, Diana declared. No committee would dare. England supports you. Right? If they blocked you, we'd be furious. He smiled and waved at the cheering crowd. Diana winked as the cameras ate it up. William glanced at his watch. 5:30. It was time to go. With Wilson and Harry at his side and a phalanx of bodyguards and staff, he declined all requests for exclusive interviews and slipped out through the parking lot. 3 cars headed toward Kensington, and by the evening, the newspapers and television across England were ablaze with the afternoon's spectacle. People who had watched it live still shook their heads in disbelief. An old-fashioned skill, archery, had been displayed with such mastery that it felt like something out of legend. By the next day, archery clubs across the country were suddenly busier than they'd been in years. Chapter 38. The book had been retitled Becoming the Richest Man in the Film and Television World. 4 chapters had already been released. Bookmark it if you liked it, and please recommend it. As soon as William and his entourage left the Olympic Stadium, paparazzi swarmed them. A couple of brazen photographers even roared up on motorcycles and slammed into position, firing flash after flash. William, who was driving, was nearly blinded. The relentless lights made it hard to see the road. They seemed to care nothing for the driver's safety. Fortunately, Kensington wasn't far. The 3 cars slipped into the estate, where Princess Diana stood at the gate to greet them. It was precisely 6 o'clock. After Prince Charles returned from work, they all sat down to a cheerful dinner in the dining room. Later, Prince Charles took William and Harry for a walk through Kensington Gardens. Intentionally ignoring the photographers clustered outside the palace, he strolled toward the gate with a disarming smile, allowing the cameras to click. He patted William on the shoulder now and then, as if they were old friends. Before long, broadcast vans arrived and the crowd outside swelled. Rumors and gossip spread fast. Who is this William Devlin? He seems unusually close to the royal family. They talked about football, movies, astronomy, and geography. Eventually, the conversation turned to the American stock market. Prince Charles was both excited and uneasy about its recent performance. He was delighted that his NASDAQ investments had done well in recent years, but worried that valuations had grown ludicrous. Everyone seemed to be dabbling in stocks. Even cleaning staff could make in a day what used to take a week's labor. That kind of speculative fever made him nervous. He had listened to many experts, but found no consensus. He mentioned the topic to William more out of concern than expectation of advice. William watched this English prince who was nothing like the man he remembered from his previous life. Gentle, witty, devoted to Diana. He had read hindsight analyses before, and he had some knowledge of how the market really worked. He didn't claim to know every detail. The market was too complex, but he knew enough to form a strong opinion. In his memory, the market's highest point was 513,252, and the Nasdaq's peak on March 10th had been 504,862. What had triggered the fall was a sharp tumble in biotech, which dragged tech stocks down. Compounded by Microsoft's antitrust loss on April 3rd, panic spread and the market fell for months afterward. He couldn't remember every twist, but that outline was enough to make a clear judgment. Noticing William's thoughtful silence, Prince Charles paused the walk. William had been trying not to dominate the conversation, But now, feigning casualness, he looked up and said, "Your Royal Highness, I did a lot of thinking about NASDAQ back in January. Once I figured it out, I sold the Plants vs. Zombies game as quickly as I could. Even if that game could make hundreds of millions, it would take years, and only if the market stayed stable. If people suddenly have less money, the game's peripheral revenue dries up. My read is that NASDAQ will probably peak within a few months. The simplest reason is that fewer than 1% of current tech companies are profitable. Many are fabricating numbers, executives are cashing out, huge R&D budgets go in without producing profits. Most people are in the market via leverage. There's almost no cash outside stocks. If something nudges prices down, leveraged positions will be liquidated, forced selling will feed on itself, and panic will turn a correction into a crash. William's explanation was plain, but to Prince Charles it sounded more persuasive than abstract expert commentary. It gave a concrete reason for his unease. Charles sighed and said, "So you sold the game so you could short the market?" William nodded. He'd hoped the prince might spread the warning, but Charles was a man of principle. He immediately asked them not to publicize William's view. The consequences could be serious for William personally. What none of them knew was that because they had been walking close to the gate, two paparazzi had been hiding in the shadows with a small satellite dish and a receiver. They'd recorded the entire conversation and were trembling with excitement. The photographers grabbed their gear and bolted for a car. By the time William, Charles, and the others had walked for over an hour, said their goodbyes, and returned home, television stations were already airing William's remarks about an impending NASDAQ crash, quoting him as speaking with Prince Charles in Kensington. The comment ignited a maelstrom across England. The once beloved prodigy suddenly became a pariah. Nobody wanted to hear warnings that could precipitate losses. Fortunately for William, he didn't watch the news. Back at home, he set to work with the 18 throwing knives he had bought from the specialty shop. He practiced the bullseye techniques he'd studied, losing himself in the rhythm. At 8 in the evening, his phone rang. The Swiss National Bank called first. Blockbuster had deposited the purchase money for the game at 3 p.m. U.S. time. After he hung up, the Bank of England called with the same news. The funds had arrived there too. William instructed both banks to convert the sum into U.S. dollars. At current rates, £1.35 billion would convert to about $2.2 billion, much easier to use for short selling in the U.S. After ending the calls, William whooped with excitement. The weight that had been on his chest lifted. He was undeniably a billionaire, $2.2 billion, before his 20th birthday. If things went well, he might reach $10 billion in under 2 months. He flicked his wrist, and the throwing knife arced around the room, wobbling back into his hand. Practicing for hours, his skill improved dramatically. Bullseye's methods had taken hold. The knives became an extra layer of protection. 18 finger-sized blades flashed in his hands as he played with them, elated. His phone rang again and cut through that self-satisfaction. He answered and heard Barney from the Expendables on the line. "Sorry, boss," Barney said immediately. "We messed up. Carlos is dead." William swore softly. This had been an arrest warrant. How could they have failed? "What happened?" Barney sounded frustrated and apologetic. "We tracked Carlos to Madagascar and chased him to a construction site. He fell from a crane and died instantly. We were trying to bring him in alive." He hesitated, then continued. "During the arrest, Yin Yang got Carlos's backpack. There was a time bomb and a phone. The phone had a location, Miami Airport." Hearing Miami Airport, William understood the implication instantly. Carlos had meant to bomb Skywing Flight 570. With Carlos dead, the direct lead to whoever ordered the attack had been lost. "I wanted him alive," William said quietly. "Without him, how do we find the mastermind?" Barney brightened a little. "We're lucky. Gunnar knew Carlos and said Carlos worked for a mercenary broker, Alex Demetrius. He's a dangerous fixer for hire. I'd suggest warning Miami Airport and Skywing immediately." William closed his eyes for a second, already running through options. "I know. That's why we tried to get Carlos. Barney, your mission now is to find Alex Demetrius." "I already asked Tool for info," Barney replied. "Alex is in the Bahamas." "Good. Go to the Bahamas. Keep him under surveillance. Find out who he's been in contact with. identify his employer, and send me a photo. I may be able to pull something up from my end. Understood, boss. We're leaving soon. I'll send updates. Sorry again. Don't screw it up, William said, more sharply than he intended, then cut the call. William took out the encrypted laptop Gary had given him and accessed MI6's database. Chapter 39. When William logged into the MI6 archives as head of W, his search for Alex Dimitrios triggered an automatic alert to Bill Turner, M's assistant. Bill phoned M at once. Ma'am, W is active. We just picked up William Devonshire searching our database for someone named Alex Dimitrios. M, roused from bed and annoyed at being awakened, swung her laptop open on the bedside table. A photograph filled the screen. Why would William be looking for this villain, this executioner? She muttered. When she clicked the image, a middle-aged white man with a damaged left eye, she startled. Le Chiffre, she exclaimed, then barked into the phone. Where is William Devonshire now? At his home on Oxford Street, Bill replied. We'll tail him. I want eyes on William Devonshire at all times. If he's looking for Le Chiffre, following him might lead us to the villain. Understood, M said. Send people immediately. William had no idea his login had set off the alarms. After contacting Gareth, the chairman of the security committee, M had tightened oversight on W's access permissions. Any login with William's credentials would be visible. He continued scrolling through the profile of the left-eyed man, Le Chiffre, an international banker who laundered money for terrorists and warlords and made a fortune from ruthless speculation. Le Chiffre had shorted Skyfleet Airlines and wanted the Skyfleet 570 destroyed. If the prototype or an aircraft tied to the program were blown up, Skyfleet's stock would collapse and Le Chiffre would reap enormous gains. That was a problem for William. He had been timing a market crash for March, and an earlier collapse caused by Skyfleet's sudden plunge could trigger the chain reaction he was counting on before he was ready. His game sales money had only cleared that very day. He hadn't even finished positioning his assets. If Le Chiffre forced a crash now, it would ruin his plan. William seethed inwardly. Damn you, Le Chiffre, he thought. You'll regret messing with my money. He decided to handle it himself. If he could watch Alex Dimitrios, track whoever was planning to fly to Miami and blow up the plane, he could eliminate the threat directly. Opportunities for a market crash like this didn't come often. He wasn't about to let Le Chiffre ruin it. William grabbed his passport, wallet, and credit cards and left in his car. Less than 10 minutes later, agents from M were parked outside his Oxford Street house. He drove straight to the secret equipment depot Gareth had arranged. The depot's armory was cramped, only a meter of storage, so he broke down an 80-piece sniper rifle into barrel and body to fit it into his allotted space, packed 200 rounds of sniper ammunition and a suppressor, and tucked them into his personal locker. He took an M4A1. HK416 wasn't out yet in 2000, he mused, but he'd build one himself when he had time, and fitted every available accessory, then took 10 loaded magazines. He added a tranquilizer rifle with darts, 2 Glock 17 pistols and 20 magazines, listening devices, locators and trackers, night vision goggles, gas masks, flashlights, and an assortment of grenades, 20 fragmentation, 20 smoke, 20 flashbangs, and 20 tranquilizer smoke grenades. He felt confident he could take on an entire company with that kit. Finally, he withdrew £100,000 and $100,000 in cash and left the depot empty-handed. He called his private client manager at the Bank of England and booked a small private plane to the Bahamas. The flight attendant showed him to a sofa, and William slept almost immediately, uninterested in any onboard attentions. 8 hours later, the plane touched down at Lyndon Pindling International Airport in Nassau. Outside the terminal, he read a text from Barney, then flagged a taxi. Ocean Club Hotel, he told the driver. When he arrived, Barney and Christmas were waiting in the lobby. They came forward at once. Afternoon, boss, they murmured. Where's Alex Dimitrios? William asked. Alex and his wife have a seaside villa, Barney said. Yin and Yang and a few others are keeping watch there. During the day, split into groups for surveillance and rest, William instructed. There might be work at night. Understood, boss. After arranging the surveillance, William checked in at the reception desk and met a blonde receptionist who smiled when she saw him. Hello, William said. I'd like a room. Do you have a reservation? She asked. No, it was a spur-of-the-moment trip, he replied. I didn't even bring luggage, just my wallet and my phone. She typed, then looked up. We only have a sea view room left. Would that be all right? Perfect. William produced a Bank of England black card and handed it over. After the check-in, the receptionist smiled as she returned the card. I finish in 3 hours, she said, tracing a finger across his palm and giggling. If you want a guide to see the islands, I could show you around. I'll come find you if I need one, William said. She slid a business card across the counter and winked. Anything you need, sir. Call me. Outside the hotel, the Bahamian sun was warm and easy. William, who'd been wearing a down jacket yesterday and was now comfortably in a shirt and shorts, felt light-hearted. As he left, 2 athletic young women in tank tops, short skirts, and baseball caps carrying tennis rackets passed by. One glanced back, smiled at him. William's pulse quickened. That face was painfully familiar. Alessandra Ambrosio, the Victoria's Secret model from his previous life. She looked even more luminous now, barely 20 and vibrant with youth. He trailed them to the hotel's tennis courts and took a seat in the seating area with a glass of juice, enjoying the view as they played. Watching the pair move across the court was a pleasant way to spend the afternoon. After a short while, Alessandra signaled her partner and came over, her expression puckered in mock annoyance. William froze, caught staring. He hastily pretended to sip his juice and turned his head. Hey, Mr. Devonshire, look over here. Alessandra waved. He turned, sheepish. I saw you staring, she said, feigning indignation. It's rude to stare like that. William stood and forced a charming smile. I'm very sorry, he said smoothly. I shouldn't have kept looking. I was simply admiring beauty in a beautiful place. I didn't mean to offend. You're just impossible to look away from. He sounded apologetic, but his words were flattering. Chapter 40. Alexander Ambrosio burst out laughing at William's flattering words. Mr. Devonhill, you're a smooth talker, but that still doesn't excuse your rudeness. All right, since you didn't come at me disrespectfully, I'll temporarily accept your apology. Thank you. May I invite you to sit? William asked, pulling out a chair for her. After she sat, he called a waiter and asked what she would like to drink. A mango juice, please, she said, then turned back to him. Mr. Devonhill, aren't you supposed to be in England? How did you end up in the Bahamas? I saw your archery on TV yesterday. I thought it was you at the hotel entrance just now. You look so cool when you shoot. Absolutely stunning. My agent nearly had a heart attack watching. William studied the young woman before him. At 20, she was exquisite, all youthful glow and mischief, very different from the assured, mature woman he remembered from another life. He smiled. May I call you Alexander? Of course, she replied, mischievous. But you know my name and I don't know yours. That's not fair. My name's William, he said with a grin. But beautiful lady, you can't hide from me forever. She dared him with a playful challenge. I won't tell you, but you can guess. If you get it right, you get a chance to take me to dinner. William pretended to stroke his chin, buying time until she grew visibly impatient. Then he snapped his fingers triumphantly. Ha! I remember. You're in Elle magazine. Alexander Ambrosio, right? Stunning, he finished with a wink. Alexander's smile froze. William, you scoundrel. You tricked me. You knew who I was all along, and you were making fun of me. I'm angry. He laughed, and she swatted his shoulder in annoyance before settling across from him, pouting. Seeing her genuinely irritated, William quickly softened his tone. All right, I apologize, Alexander. You truly are captivating. The first time I saw you in a magazine, I was enchanted. Seeing you in person, I couldn't help but come over. May I have the honor of inviting you to dinner? Don't get ahead of yourself. I haven't forgiven you yet, she said grumpily. Okay, our lovely, charming Alexander, what will earn my forgiveness? William moved his chair closer. She didn't pull away. He took that as a good sign. After a moment, she said, Play tennis with us, 1 against me and my companion. William rubbed his forehead. That's not fair. 1 person against 2? I'll surely lose. No, we should play something else. I want you to lose, she declared. If you lose, you'll treat me and my companion to a day out in Nassau this afternoon, and you'll be our errand boy. She laughed at the thought of the famed English genius reduced to errands. And if I win? William pressed. If you win, I'll be your tour guide. I've been here several days. I know Nassau well. I'll make sure you don't make any mistakes, she replied. He agreed. William called a waiter, and under the staff's direction, they went to a sports store to pick out tennis gear. Alexander watched him change with a trace of suspicion. Could he actually be good at tennis? She muttered to herself that he was a cunning trickster. When the match started, Alexander's companion deliberately made frequent errors, but it made no difference. William won 2 straight sets in a best-of-3, leaving Alexander frowning and scowling at him for not letting them win. After the game, William led the 2 women to sit and order drinks. "Remember our deal," he said, grinning. "You'll be my tour guide later." I never thought I'd get such a beautiful woman as a free tour guide while relaxing in Nassau. Alexander shot a helpless look at her companion, thinking, if you hadn't tried to cozy up to him, I wouldn't have lost. "I'll keep my word," she muttered. "I'm going to change. Wait for me in the lobby in 2 hours." She dragged her friend away without waiting for his reply. William watched them go and shook his head. He still couldn't quite process the day's absurdities. He paid the bill, asked the front desk to deliver a Versace outfit to his room. He'd only brought a wallet with him, and settled into the Seaview room for a quick lunch and a nap. At 2:50, he arrived in the hotel lobby. A few minutes later, Alexander appeared, wearing a knee-length blue dress and light makeup, utterly radiant. William's breath caught. "You're truly beautiful, Alexander. I feel like my heart's been stolen. If I never saw you again." He faltered with melodramatic sincerity. She covered her mouth, laughter lighting her eyes. "You flatterer, William. I'm not that good." "No, I mean it. You're perfect. Victoria's Secret should have you on the runway this year." She laughed, incredulous. "Me? That's impossible. I'm not ready for that." William leaned forward. "Nothing's impossible. You just need exposure. Travel a bit, get photographed, and the designers will notice." Her expression changed, intrigued. "How would you help?" "We'll travel around England together for a while. The paparazzi will photograph us. They'll publish the pictures. You're beautiful and have the figure. After a few appearances, designers will see you." She studied him, calculating. Then, tracing a circle on his chest with her finger, she teased, "Perhaps we could date for a while. I know you wouldn't help me for nothing." William took her hand gently. "Then let's go for a walk. Maybe the person you hope to meet is out there right now." "All right, Mr. Devonhill," she said sweetly. They walked out of the hotel hand in hand, a picture-perfect couple that drew jealous looks from many men on vacation. A few steps beyond the doors, William noticed a middle-aged white man a dozen or so meters away, holding a camera and snapping photos of them. William recognized him immediately. Alexander's agent. He'd seen someone with a camera earlier that morning watching him and had assumed it was a paparazzo. Now it all made sense.